is the new development? What is, I'm out of touch. I'm told Noel has been appointed chairman of the trust, something that is a very good and positive thing for both the trusts and for the business. So it's to be applauded all in every way.
Gopal, the other aspect is, of course, I think a lot of people are wondering this, and Noel being spoken about more now than perhaps at any point in the past. What is your experience of him? What are have your interactions of him been like, just so that people get a sense of who Noel Tata is as a person?
Well, in due course, you'll gradually get to know as he starts to do his work. But like Ratan was 25 years ago, nobody knew Ratan Tata, and people said JRD was big shoes to fill up. And today everybody is saying Ratan Tata is an icon. I have very little doubt that in, I don't know whether it's 20 years or 15 years from now, people will say Noel Tata was a towering giant.
Yeah, but give us some anecdotes, give us some experiences that you've had, so that all of us, and in fact everybody who's watching this, can get a sense of who he is as a person. He has, of course, been at the helm of Trent for so long.
Yeah, I think he's a low-profile guy. He gets on with his work. He's a persistent guy, and he perseveres till he reaches his goal. And the journey of Trent is a very good evidence of that. And so he sets his mind as to what is the right thing to do. And before he sets his mind, he does all his homework, market research, talking to colleagues, looking at the market. And then he goes about it. And when people said Tata was doing nothing in retailing, you remember 10 years ago there were Small Bazaar, Big Bazaar, all sorts of other names were there. And now he has created a wonderful company which is, I think, got into the Nifty 100 or something like that.
It has, in the Nifty 50. Gopal,
so I think the only thing I can say is that he's a low-profile person. He doesn't talk much about what he does, but he does his work. और क्या चाहिए?
और क्या चाहिए? Yeah, absolutely. One last question, because I think this is another question that a lot of people are going to have. The interactions that he will likely have with Tata Sons, with N. Chandra. Of course, we're trying to understand what that dynamic is going to be like, Gopal. What do you expect to take place?
I don't expect any drama unless either the trust goes off rails or the Tata Sons goes off the rails, which can happen. I mean, one cannot say it will never happen. You know, somebody may steer a company in some other direction. The trust will let the business people run the company, which is what and the trust will handle the credits they get by way of dividends and because they are merely shareholders now, right?
Yeah,
and there are 2 representatives or 3 representatives, I've forgotten, of the trust on the board anyway.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Gopal, thanks so much for joining in. I think you've given us incredible perspective. We've all been trying to get a sense of who Noel Tata is as an individual, and you've given us some insight into that. As you said, that we'll probably come to know more in the coming years. Tamanna joining in as well. Tamanna, an interesting point that was being made by Mr. Gopal Krishnan was that when Ratan Tata took over, he was also soft-spoken, and people said he had big shoes to fill. There is a similar statement perhaps being made about Noel Tata, and you'll know in 15 years is what Mr. Gopal Krishnan is saying.
I think a new era
yes.
has been ushered in as well, and that's one perspective, an important perspective to look at it. I mean, we've been reporting on this since the morning, and we broke the story that Noel Tata is pipped to take over the Tata Trusts. Does it make any difference to the way Tata companies are run? Is unlikely. Neeraj Agarwal also joining in. He's Senior Vice President, Vistra India. Neeraj, hi, great to chat with you again. But, you know, just to understand, now that it's official, Noel Tata is going to take over. Let's just recap what this means for the Tata Group going forward. Neeraj, can you hear me? Yeah, there. Yes, please.
In my limited understanding, practically nothing changes. So technically speaking, the trust holds 66%.
Just be having a little bit of an issue with Neeraj's line. Neeraj, if you can still hear me, you were making the point that the Tata Trusts own about 65% in Tata Sons. Okay, we seem to be having just a tad bit of an issue with the line. But Tamanna, before you joined us in the studio, we were talking about the nitty-gritties of what happens, right? And the relationship, and that is also what Gopal was weighing in on in terms of how the interaction between Tata Trusts and Tata Sons would take place. Sajith was explaining the amendment that took place 2 years back that ensured the separation between Tata Sons and Tata Trusts.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the numbers as well, because ultimately the philanthropic responsibilities are with Tata Trusts. What is the amount of money that we're talking about that they handle? And also they handle the CSR responsibilities of the group, right?
True. No, I'm just looking at the annual report of one of the Tata Trusts, which is there. In FY 22-23, they made they had the institutional program grants of nearly 397 crores, and there was small. So the total amount that was made by them was around 456 odd crores, which was there, and of that 23% or 24% went into healthcare.
Okay.
Which basically means building hospitals, and
The
very
Kolkata
big.
Cancer Hospital.
Kolkata Cancer Hospital was a classic example because it came into being at that point in time. So that's what a bigger thing. And then rural upliftment was the next one where they invested a lot into that.
We'll revisit that in just a bit. Neeraj Agarwal back on the phone line with us. Neeraj, you were making a point. You don't think much will change. You were talking about the ownership of 65% in Tata Sons. Yeah.
So 66% is held by trust, 1% is held by Mr. Noel Tata. So technically speaking, and as a chairman trustee of the trust, he will look at the objectives of the trust, which means whatever dividends that will come in, how it will be used for the benefit of the society. And he apparently has a very good equation with the chairman of Tata Sons, which means collectively both of them, or again, the discussions will be very, very smooth, cohesive, and Tata Sons will primarily govern how the businesses will grow and how to work in the interest of the shareholders, and the largest shareholder being trust being represented by Noel Tata. So I think nothing is changing, and we will see the next phase of growth under the new scheme of things.
Okay, Sanjay Ashar also joining in. He's a senior partner at Crawford Bailey. Sanjay, thank you so much for speaking with us today. Put into perspective the significance of what we have seen. I mean, it was expected at some point that there would be a change of guard at Tata Trusts. Noel Tata has now taken over. What does this change for the Tata Group, if anything?
No, nothing. It is only solidifying itself. And with Noel Tata coming in, and he has done a marvelous job at Voltas, at Trent, at Titan, etc. And so therefore, I think it's a very good step in the right direction for the Tata Group as a whole. A family man who understands the philosophy well, as also who is matured enough in order to take Tata Group to the next level. So to my mind, yes, it's an excellent decision for the Tata Group.
Sanjay, he's going to head the entire philanthropic, initiatives of the Tata Trust. He takes over from Ratan Tata as we speak. How do you see the way the philanthropy will be undertaken under his leadership? Everyone has a different way of taking forward. Mr. Tata had another way, one way of doing it. Do you see some kind of changes that he undertakes so that it can be much more effective in nature and continues the Tata legacy of giving back to the society?
Correct. So my view is that he will surely take the Tata Group legacy forward. Number two, he will only solidify the values which are already there to giving back the society, which is the philosophy of the Tata Group. Number three, in a way, tacitly, he has seen as to how Mr. Ratan Tata has done this in the last 25, 30 years. And under his guidance, he, in that sense, tacitly has been trained in order to see that the values are taken forward. So to my mind, yes, it's a step in the right direction, and he will surely continue with the legacy and see to it that, and he will solidify it further.
I'm also curious about what happens with his chairmanship of Trent. Neeraj, you want to come in on that? Because he has certain responsibilities with Tata companies existing. Does that change at all?
No, because these are fiduciary responsibilities, so really nothing changing. And I think we have seen in the past where the chairman of the trust was also heading certain businesses. So it's business as usual, really nothing worth really looking at it. And it's completely fiduciary responsibility versus a professional responsibility.
All right. Thank you so much, Sanjay. Thank you so much, Neeraj. For joining us today and putting that into perspective. Definitely a big day, and Sajid, interested to know how you are looking at it, because you've tracked this group so closely for so many years, and Noel Tata, I think, has come into the limelight also because of Trent and the success of Trent. But now this is a completely different role in which we will be seeing Noel Tata. Perhaps not so much in the public at all, because that's clearly not what he prefers.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be in public. The only way you can see him is that if you're a shareholder and you go to an AGM, you will find him there.
I'm curious, has he ever done a television interview?
He hasn't done any interviews to my understanding, and whenever we approach to him, he's willing to talk, chat, but he will not come on camera there. But the interesting part, which there are two things which we need to very clearly segregate here. One, he taking charge as chairman of Tata Trust has no bearing on how Tata Sons is run and how Tata companies are run. This transition was done 2 years back when Tata Sons amended its article of association, which ensured that the chairman of Tata Sons will not be holding the position of Tata chairman of Tata Trust. So there was a clear demarcation, and in this resolution, because Tata Sons held 66% in Tata Trust held 66% Tata Sons, it was voted by Tata Trust. In that sense, so it is cast in stone. So there is no interference which is coming. So there are clear governance boundaries which are there in place. The second part is about Tata Trust, how it functions. It continues to function as an umbrella organization, taking together 14 trusts which have been created at various point in time by various Tata family members there, and it holds 66%. They get grants, and these grants are disbursed to various segments or sectors based on the demand that they have, and for that they have an executive committee which will now be chaired by Noel Tata, and there will be other members, and they have a professional body of people who are managing day-to-day affairs of how funds are used or are deployed for various charity work going forward there. Noel Tata being chairman of some of the group companies has no bearing on what Tata Trust is going to do, because their charter is very clear, and the charters of these individual companies are very clear that they have to serve the stakeholders of those respective companies. And we've seen how Trent has turned around in the last few years. Noel, as a businessman, has a very good hold on supply chain, because as part he was MD of Tata International, which was into this, and taking all the Tata things globally to various countries. So he has that good understanding, and he has mapped that very well into Trent, and that's what we are seeing Trent now doing it. So the caliber is totally, both the calibers are different, and the way they have to approach both, whether it's trust activities or companies, are totally different.
The latest Tata company to form a part of the Nifty 50, and what a journey it has been for Trent as well. Of course, the responsibility of Noel Tata as part of Tata Trust, as Sajid has pointed out, is going to be a slightly different responsibility than he is used to as a chairman of Trent. Looking after investments that are made in hospitals, for example, Tata Group hospitals known far and wide in specific spaces, particularly in oncology. We've spoken over the course of yesterday with a leading doctor that helped with the setting up of Kolkata Hospital as well. So that's only a part of the responsibilities. I think we've given our viewers a sense of how things are going to go from this point, and this is obviously going to be a developing story a lot to unfold.
Absolutely. We'll wait for more official statements, but of course now we know that Noel Tata is at the helm. That's all the time we have on this special show. We'll take a short break and we're back to markets and all the action there. Stay tuned.
The moment I saw it, I thought I will have to come here.
I'm loving it. An experience to remember for a lifetime.
जानू ना मुझको कैसे है पा लिया इस शहर ने लापता था मैं पहले अपना लिया इस शहर ने शोर भी लगे एक दिन की तरह
NDTV World Summit 2024, October 21st and 22nd, only on NDTV Network.
When the whole day passes like a blur, the news just whizzes past, and you're trying to stay informed. It is our job to bring you news that truly matters. At Profit 360, we cut through the clutter, the Long Street deals, finance and policy news that could shape your tomorrow. The newsmakers, the trendsetters, and the innovators. In 30 minutes, we've got you covered. So stay ahead, stay informed, and stay profitable with Profit 360.
NDTV World Summit 2024, October 21st and 22nd, only on NDTV Network.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
Let's be real, guys. There are many financial experts out there. Which stocks to target? What's good for long term? When to buy? When to sell? How do you stay ahead of all the financial noise to achieve?
Hi, thanks so much for joining in. You're watching Large Trades on NDTV Profit. My name is Alex Matthew. Now, let's talk about where the markets are right now. And in fact, you've seen pretty sluggish sort of a move on the benchmark Nifty 50. Very narrow range through the session so far. And we are holding out very close to that 24,950 mark. We have been there for some time now. And it's been a less than 100-point range for the benchmark at the end of the trading week. The broader market's also looking more or less lackluster, gaining just a tad bit at this point. About 0.1% or so for the mid-cap index and about 1/3% or thereabouts for the small-cap index. Let's talk about a few stocks as well, because that's where the action is. Individual stocks. Bandhan Bank is something that we were talking about at the start of the day. Key developments coming through. You have a management change to talk about, and of course also a few notes coming through about the bank, positive notes. At that, the stock is up as much as 10%. Of course, we have been talking about the development with Tata Trusts and the implications it has for Tata Sons. Noel Tata being appointed as the chairman of Tata Trusts after the board meeting that concluded just a short while back. You had a lot of the Tata Group companies that were trading in the green yesterday. Several of them continue to trade in the green today as well. Tata Consultancy Services, another stock that is in focus. But Agam Vakil, your usual anchor of the show, is joining in and is here to talk to me about where the markets are right now. Agam.
Alex, you actually summed it up very well as well. We're looking at a marginal weakness as far as the Nifty is concerned. There is a little bit sharper cut on the bank Nifty at the moment, and it does seem like we're looking at about a profit taking coming through after a little bit of stability that we've seen in the benchmark indices. Of course, while we've been talking about the Tata Group stocks quite a bit, let's take a look at what we're going to talk about in the show now from here on. So a handful of buzzers out there that certainly are in focus on account of volumes. We also have plenty of bulk deals as well in today's day of trade. But I'm going to start with one counter which has actually announced its earnings yesterday and which is actually showing strength as well, and that's Anand Rathi. This broking firm has actually seen, it's actually come off from day's highs. It's currently flat at the moment, and it does seem like we've seen a little bit of profit taking coming through. But I'm going to get in my colleague Puneet to tell us more about how things have panned out for this quarter. Puneet.
Well, thanks for that. So, it is buzzing on strong volumes. Is at roughly around 5.5 to 6 times the 30-day average. And you rightly said, it's come off from the day's high of about 5.67%. While the quarter, earnings were very good. Revenue grew by roughly about 32% to come in at 242 odd crores versus Bloomberg estimates of 247 crores. So, bang in line with that. While the net profit also grew 32% to come in at 76 odd crores, keeping cost, at a minimal level in this particular quarter. Now, you see the AUM growth was very, very strong, coming in at 57%, crossing 75,000 crores as a whole at the end of quarter 2 of FY25. And that's, while the active client families also, because it's a wealth manager and caters to HNI investors largely, has roughly crossed about 10,977 as well, a 10 to 15% growth from the previous number that was there, about 9,200 crores. Now, if you look at the ROC of the company and the ROE specifically, I want to talk about is roughly 44% compared to 39% the same time last year. So really strong numbers coming in on that as well. Now, if you see the AUM split, that's the key here, because equity now contributes roughly 55% of the total AUM mix of 75,000 crores that we spoke about versus 50%. And this is the high margin business. So the higher the equity mix, the better it is for this profitability. The new sales product, or the non-principal protected structured product as we call it, have come in at roughly about 25%, bang in line with what the number was in the last year, while debt number has reduced to 6% now. If you look at the key commentary that had in the quarter was also a good indication of what's going to come forward as well. It mentioned that it's a little difficult to create a financial market agnostic financial product, and that's why it's trying to do that still to get a larger audience as well. It currently has roughly about 30 clients per one relationship manager that it has, and it has said that it can add more than 7,000 more clients without hiring any more relationship managers. So costs are going to be in control, while revenue growth is going to be increasing. That's what the main thing is from this particular line. Guidance on one thing that I want to talk about, they've said that there's a 90% probability of about 20 to 25% growth over this particular fiscal year, and are attempting to maintain that for the next decade. So really strong guidance. They've also mentioned that the 10-year compounding growth to be around this particular range as well, and should be 10 times its current AUM of roughly about 75,000 odd crores. So yield should be around 1.5 to 1.2%. So augurs well for the profitability as well as yields as well. So overall, strong quarter coming in, really strong AUM growth as well. Will be key to see quarter 3 and quarter 4 maintaining this as well. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that, Puneet. Pardon me. That's, of course, Anand Rathi. Strong quarter, but the stocks has gone flat right now. And we talk about arcade developers as well. It's actually a pretty good quarter for arcade developers too. Well, in terms of your earnings, what we're seeing is revenue which has grown two times, in fact, at 125 crores. We're looking at your EBITDA margins coming in at around 33.5%, again 16%, and profits rising around 4.5 times as well. In terms of business updates in particulars, we are looking at the number of units sold, which has also moved up substantially in the financial year of FY24 at around 257 against 87 earlier. And we're also looking at a sharp growth in terms of its collections as well as pre-sale values too. Of course, At the moment, this is a relatively newer entrant in the equity market, so that's something that that's a lot of traders need to and investors need to keep in mind. But that's as far as Arcade is concerned. It's up around 3.3%, but from there on, we move on and talk about agrotech, which is also buzzing in volumes, and we have an advance of around 8.3% right now. We now have Mihika with us to give us an update on this one. Mihika, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon. So agrotech actually hit an intraday high of 13.15% and volumes are over 12 times 30-day average. A little bit about the company. Well, it's in the business of manufacturing edible oils as well as various food products. Now, FY24 wasn't a very good year for the company. Saw revenue and net profit decline of 11 and 30%. So because of this, the company has come up with a financial strategy. They're going to reduce their manufacturing costs and improve their gross margins, and this is key for them to achieve their 15% EBITDA margin target. They also need, I've also noted the need for volumes in the edible oil to maintain their adequate margins, while capacity is enough. Their focus is now on cost reduction, and they have 3 pricing actions underway for the pass-through of the pricing and withstand the competition. In terms of product strategy, well, new products like cocoa-based products, cake mix, and plant meats have been rolled out by the company. Actions have also been taken to address the decline in the spread and dip segment, and the company expects positive volume growth by Q4 of FY25. They've also stated strong momentum in ready-to-eat and breakfast cereals, and the chocolate category focus is now on launching new variants. They also are rolling out oats and almonds, and the estimated revenue from this segment comes up to 10 crores plus. Lastly, in terms of their marketing and distribution, the focus is on higher investment to drive higher growth. They're working on increasing their visibility as well as distribution, and they're now making strong inroads into smaller towns and mass markets to increase their volumes. And they've stated lastly the FY25 ad spend will be around 7 to 7.5% versus 6.5% in FY24.
All right, Mihika, thanks for joining us and getting us that update on agrotech. And from there on, we talk about Cummins, which has actually dropped quite a bit, and it's down around 5% here as well. We now have Anushi, who's going to tell us about perhaps one of the broking notes as well, which is weighing down on this particular company. Anushi?
Right, Agam. So if you look at Cummins India, this is facing a downward pressure. The 5% downtick that we are looking is back on the Goldman note, which came out, wherein they've double downgraded the stock to a sell rating compared to a buy earlier, and this is at a target price of 2,900, which is a 23% of a downside from its yesterday's closing levels. Now, this is some of the key highlights that the note mentioned were on the new emission norms, which is the CBB4 norms. This will make the diesel gensets 15 to 20% more expensive. So this would have a direct hit on their margins going forward. So margins and profitability are some of the main triggers as to why they are downgrading the stock. Overall, even if you look at the demand of these diesel gen sets, they are set to reduce with the falling battery costs. So customers are shifting their focus more towards the BESS, that's a battery energy storage system. So even the demand scenario versus the margin scenario casts a shadow over what's happening for these diesel gensets going forward. If you are to look at the expected export growth rates also, they have been on the softer side, even if you look at the Q1 in picture. While the management did point out that they are expected to bottom out, they have been lower compared to the previous cycles due to the stringent emission norms as seen. So that is so near-term margins and the medium-term growth moderating remains as a key watch out for these. But coming back to what has happened in Q1 for Cummins India, they saw about a 4% of a revenue growth, while margins had moved from 15% to 20% in the quarter, and they maintained that 13 to 14% of revenue guidance for FY25. So that is all in Cummins.
Okay, Anushi, thank you for joining us and getting us those updates on Cummins India. And with that, we are completely out of time on this edition of Large Trades, but lots more lined up on the other side. We have India Market Close coming up next. Stay tuned in.
The moment I saw it, I thought I will have to come here.
I'm loving it. An experience to remember for a lifetime.
जानू ना मुझको कैसे है पा लिया इस शहर ने, लापता था मैं पहले अपना लिया इस शहर ने, शोर भी लगे एक दिन की तरह।
NDTV World Summit 2024, October 21st and 22nd, only on NDTV Network.
When the whole day passes like a blur, the news just whizzes past, and you're trying to stay informed. It is our job to bring you news that truly matters. At Profit 360, we cut through the clutter. The large street deals, finance and policy news that could shape your tomorrow. The newsmakers, the trendsetters, and the innovators. In 30 minutes, we've got you covered. So stay ahead, stay informed, and stay profitable with Profit 360.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and Thanks for tuning into India Market Close, and to all of you out there, from everybody here on NDTV Profit and on India Market Close, from Tamanna and me, wishing you all a very happy Dussehra. Well, maybe it's not the happiest of afternoons for the markets. It's still okay, but it's come off from the highs of the day. And I think banks are putting that pressure. Even strong sectors like metals have come off in the session today. So you will see this, about 0.25% down for the Sensex. Nifty metal still 0.84% higher, but has come off. And IT has contrasting weightages, TCS versus Infosys, if you will, but still holding out about 0.33%. So not too bad in that sense. Now, bring up the heat map, and I must admit that a larger portion of the moves are happening at the broader end of the spectrum, but the large caps are not bereft of moves. So TCS still down on the 2.5%. For a point of time, it actually broke even and then has come off completely. Mahindra & Mahindra is down. Adani Enterprises is down despite very strong response to the QIP. And then come the banks, from an ICICI Bank to Axis to HDFC. All of them are in the red, and which is why, if you see the weightages, and don't pull up the weightages, but I'm just saying, the likes of in TCS, HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank are putting pressure. What's doing well? A bounce back for Trent. Interestingly, metals, of course, are doing well, because metals overnight in China and in the LME actually did really well for themselves. And like I said, contrasting fortune. So while TCS is not doing well, the likes of HCL, Tech Mahindra, etc. have done reasonably okay for themselves. But, I mean, the large caps are doing okay, Tamanna. When I compare it to what the broader end of the spectrum is doing, there is some really strong moves out there.
Absolutely. I mean, Trent, I suppose a salute to Noel Tata, the new Tata Trust boss. That's maybe one reason you're seeing that, but Neeraj is absolutely right. Let's pull up sectoral indices and then look at what the broader markets are doing as well. Pharma Nifty has had such a smart recovery, and I think that's definitely something to mark out. We spoke on pharma stocks early this morning on India Market Open, and the view was that the panic button that was pressed because of the new Biden-Harris administration views or plans on subsidizing Medicare would not really impact Indian pharma companies, and you're seeing a bounce back there. Bounce back for metals as well. So even though it's a bit of a muted day, the fact is that it's pretty good for certain stocks and sectors which have been beaten down, and pharma and metals among them. Nifty Realty, Bank Nifty continue to suffer, and these are the ones which are truly hurting in that sense. But if I look at the broader markets, as Neeraj talked about, the small cap 250, the mid cap relatively doing better. The advanced decline ratio is also something that we should pull out when we're looking at some of these factors to see what's happening. And this is where you can see the pain point in full display, because your advance and declines completely even Stevens. Today is a tussle between the bulls and the bears. Right now, at least, the bears are on top. Now, what's working, what's not? Let's pull up the BSE 500 top losers and gainers and give you an idea of what sparklers of the day are. On the losing side, Cummins taking a hard knock after a double downgrade from Goldman Sachs. That's what's hurt it. Star Health is under the lens because they've had a massive data breach. The company talked about it yesterday. There was some recovery actually in yesterday's trade as well, but feeling the heat right now. A clutch of other names which have not done too well, JSW Energy, Jindal among them. But on the winning side, Bandhan Bank. Bandhan Bank really has seen a new lease of life after two big issues that the bank have both gone away. One is management, so you have new CEO announced, takes over from the 10th of November. And then the issues that they had with the credit guarantee scheme now seem to have eased as well. That's a plus point on their balance sheet of up to 500 crores. So that's work for Bandhan Bank. Sonata Soft is doing fine. Actually, IT is an interesting space because TCS has had a tough day. We'll just pull up TCS very quickly. But on the other hand, you have some IT companies which have done fairly well. TCS still about 2% down. So yes, that's the tale of the two Tata Group companies. But we'll just pull up the constituents of the Nifty IT to see how that entire pack is doing. TCS numbers still being digested, and that's why they are in the red, that stock, but everything else is working pretty well. I think that's interesting. Persistent, HCL Tech, Tech Mahindra, Infi, all in the green this afternoon. So all in all, I think this festive sort of weekend will be wrapped with a bit of a muted play, Neeraj, but we're set decently, I think, for Monday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if indeed the market digests all of this well. Remember, Monday is also marked, or rather the weekend is also marked with the possibility of a stimulus by China, further stimulus by China, and maybe that could also impact the metal space. Let's get in our experts. Just keep this in mind that it's undecided because there's a story which said that there could be a $283 billion stimulus tomorrow, but there's also a possibility that it could happen in the next 6 months. Jai Bala, founder and chief market technician at Cash the Chaos, Johnson, with his thoughts on the technicals. Jai, good having you. It's been a really long time, so good talking to you. How are you looking at markets currently? Because we've had a week which has been a very range-bound week. 400, 500 points, sell on rise, buy the dips. That's been the template.
Yeah, that's right, Neeraj. I'm expecting this market to correct to somewhere close to the June 4th low, the post-election results low, and that's the medium-term outlook. But in the very short term, I'm anticipating some bounce for the Nifty to somewhere close to about 25,480 to 25,650, and something about the Bank Nifty level will be about 52,475 to 52,950. That once the market bounces to that level, I'm expecting this selling that we saw that started on the 27th of September to renew and take the markets lower in a few weeks to a couple of months time frame, or a little longer. Time is not that important. I expect the market to drop to somewhere close to the June 4th low of 21,800 and change.
Okay, and so therefore, are you initiating shorts on the Nifty as we speak, Jay?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the markets to give a bounce. Until that bounce comes through, it's a bit premature because I don't think most players are acknowledging the fact that markets is correcting for the medium term. The cycle that started from the low of March 2023, that's turned down, and there's a correction for that move to the all-time high. So that works out to about 21,830, an important support for the market. And I'm waiting for a short-term bounce to come through. And the equivalent level for the Bank Nifty is also the same. A number of significant stocks have given a reversal signature, right? Reliance, we spoke about in late August and early September, and even ITC. And today's move on ICICI is also a reversal signature, and even TCS. But the Nifty IT index as such hasn't broken down yet. We're waiting for a close to come through for the Nifty IT index to somewhere below 41K, and that will be a signal of things to come. And probably, when in HCL Tech and Infosys come through with their results, probably that breakdown will happen.
Okay, Jay, hi, good afternoon. Tamanna here. Let's get your picks. Would you look at the metals or IT space today, or something from Pharma?
Pharma is a bit late now. If you recall from an earlier conversation, I've been quite bullish on Pharma.
Yeah.
And in fact, I like Newland Laboratories even at this level. But at 14,000 and change, it's a bit stretched. But the risk rewards are quite not in the realm of taking fresh risk. So that's the reason why it's an avoid. It's a avoid. But when it comes to playing the market short, I like EU Small Finance as a shorting candidate with a stop loss of about 755. I'm expecting this stock to drop to somewhere close to 515 in the medium term. But you need to roll this to play. And I have a long candidate too, which is Make Money. And it's probably got a short-term reversal coming through, and a stop loss of about 91, the price objective of 125.
Okay, so long one on Make Money Organics, short on AU Small Bank. So that is interesting. Jay, I'm wondering what's the call on TCS, because that's been that big talking point today, right? The stock which has lost 5.5%, 6% all of the last 1 month, succumbing to some more selling pressure today, another 2% loss for this one, and it's trading in or around the day's lows. So what's the trade that can be initiated on a TCS?
Yeah, the stop loss is a little bit not attractive. There's a short-term move coming towards 4,100 is important support on a closing basis. If you have to see a drop below 4,000, it's a breakdown. But I anticipate that to also to bounce somewhere close to about 4,350, 4,400, and then start a larger decline. So, you need to have a little bit of patience. If you're a day trader, there's a day trading opportunity. Probably play to about 4,100 with a stop loss of 4,150. But, if you are a position trader, wait for a bounce to come through about 4,350. And then there is a bigger decline, possibly taking hold to somewhere close to 3,600.
Some flashes on your screen, Tamanna, interesting ones. China is taking a series of steps on the economic front, but now on the markets front as well. I confess that I don't know too much about this, but it seems interesting that they are open to letting foreign investors trade the index futures directly. It is seemingly
it's
a very large step.
Yeah. No, in the Chinese context, a very large step because a closed economy in that sense, very tightly regulated, and for them to open up to quote-unquote risks or hot money coming in that sense.
By 2035. That was the one detail that missed me earlier.
By 2035. Well, if intent is enough, that's the problem with all the Chinese announcements, Neeraj. They seem like they are going to, they're going to sound good, but are they really going to do anything? Is then the question. Well, what sounds good today is Bandhan Bank. We have to come to that. It's a stock of the day. It's in focus. The stock has been running, and there are two main reasons why they are. Double thumbs up, like we described it in the morning, Harsh, and the stock up 11%. Tell us what's working for Bandhan Bank.
Stability and leadership going forward, I think that's one of the key. The other key, of course, is the fact that there's a resolution on the audit with regard to their portfolio. First, I'll come to the leadership piece. You have, of course, a new CEO MD being appointed effective 10 November for a period of 3 years, and that definitely sounds good from a stability perspective. It's Partha Pratim Sengupta. He's the managing director, CEO now. He's got 4 decades of experience in Indian banking, groomed at the State Bank of India itself, was Chief General Manager of the SBI Kolkata Circle, and more importantly, Deputy MD till 2020 and Chief Credit Officer of the SBI. Likely may see a change of processes also within Bandhan Bank, gradual or not, we'll have to wait and watch, but nonetheless, that may be something he will likely focus on and which investors may like. Second is he also took on the role of MD CEO at Indian Overseas Bank between 2020 and December 2022. And that experience will also come in handy and valuable. So a veteran of sorts. Second is the audit of the portfolio. Now, as part of that, Bandhan Bank likely to receive the differential of around 300 odd crore, 300 to 350 crore in terms of credit guaranteed by the government, and that is obviously a big positive because they've been talking about it since the last few quarters, but it's not been translating. Now it translates. Audit completed, 350 crore coming in. And second is, of course, 200 odd crore also being reversed in terms of interest payments made, or rather what they've received, and therefore a 550 crore increase in the other income, which will get reflected in H2 FY25, Q3 FY25. So that is a big positive. It cleans up accounts. It takes away all the instability that's been part of Bandhan Bank. Now, Jefferies as well as CLSA constructive, target price 240. Jefferies believes asset quality is expected to behave better than other MFIs. 15% ROE business, valuations attractive. CLSA also very similar. They believe a lot of the negatives are priced in with regard to MFI. They believe that the stock deserves a re-rating, and that's exactly what's playing out.
Okay, so which is why Bandhan Bank in focus. Jay, if you were holding Bandhan Bank, would you suggest you get out now? Enough of an up move or more in the offing?
Yeah, a little bit more in the offing. I would expect it to touch somewhere close to 215 to 229. But the stock has been a rank underperformer since 2020. So I'm not too sure what is to be done. But if it were to take out 222 on a closing basis, I think that will be a breakout, but it looks like it will still continue to underperform, given the fact that I'm anticipating the banking index, the leaders itself, to correct for a few months. I don't know if it will outperform on a standalone basis. So watch out 222 to 229. I think that's an important upside for the very short term.
Okay, well, looking at some more movers in trade and stocks which are inching up. So by the way, look at Exide. That one is really on a plane. So this battery stock is really zooming up and trading at the high point of the day. But there are others. So there is Diffusion Engineers, which is up another 5% in trade. Kirloskar Pneumatic has had a big move in trade. So do watch out for that one too. I believe TRIL would still be on locked on upper circuit itself, so that is the other one. But there are a bunch of stocks which are moving around. Diffusion Engineers is interesting because is Prashant Jain, 3P ex HDFC, buying into as a pre-open allotment, buying on the opening day, and since it's listing, unless I'm very wrong, Diffusion Engineers has had a very good move. So if you look at the 1 month chart, and it won't have a 1 month history. But if you essentially pull up the 1 month chart, which is the maximum chart of Diffusion Engineers, you will see that the stock has had a really strong listing. Look at that, post listing, it's gained about it's gained 54%. It's a seriously strong up move for this one in post linking. Not too many companies list well and then gain another 54%. I think this is what Diffusion has done, and which is why it's a pretty interesting move.
And let's move on to the brokerage call of the day. Nomura has come out with a note where it downgraded credit access to reduce, sees a downside of 15%. Harsh joins us and is back on what is concerning Nomura when it comes to credit access. Harsh?
Well, microfinance under the lens, of course, and under pressure as well with regard to growth. What Nomura is suggesting is that the growth target that credit access has set, 23 to 24%, unlikely to get achieved for FY25. And they believe that the key drag or the key reason for that is the poor performance on asset quality. They are suggesting that portfolio at risk has gone up steeply, which it has basis the Q2 numbers that have come out from credit access. Also, growth cooling off is not a good sign for them. And therefore, they believe that likely there's going to be a hit on, of course, the top line with regard to growth, but also on yields, because the portfolio performance is going to get affected. You're going to see higher NPAs, and they believe that it's not going to be a short-term, shallow cycle for someone like a credit access. It's going to be a medium-term hit. They've reduced their target price by 17% on the back of that. Margins they believe will take a hit, yields they believe will take a hit, interest income will take a hit because likely that impact of margins also flowing on to interest income. And therefore, they're not at all constructive about this. They've reduced their target price from 1119 to 950, which is a 17% decrease in target price and 4% lower on the back of that.
Okay, so credit access, seeing that pain point, we're seeing that with Cummins as well. So those are some of the top losers today. Jay, any sort of silver lining when it comes to both credit access and Cummins?
No, credit access is absolutely terrible on the charts. It's got downside strong momentum that's going on. So, it's a complete avoid. But, we spoke about Kirloskar Pneumatic. That's a very interesting stock. It's consolidated between 1400 and 1200. And, and it's having a breakout today. And it's been consolidating within that 1400 to 1200 range, sideways fashion for several weeks, probably to a few months. This is a massive breakout. It has potential to go to somewhere close to 3,500 to 5,000. So watch out for this. And the stop loss is about 1200.
Okay, well, that's the long and short of at least this particular name. But look at like Jay's highlighting, and I was saying as well, some of the stocks have had a really strong up move, and that is the interesting piece on select names which are really flying around in trade. I mean, good strong moves into a clutch of names. Motilal Oswal, interestingly, has inched up to up another 4, up from the lows of the day or from the levels that it was trading at. A sharp spike there, 806 and counting. And this is now a seriously large market cap moving. So great move there for Motilal Oswal in this session today.
I should point out BSE as well. That's just since we're talking about the space, look at BSE's run, 5% up. I mean, I just want to track BSE in the last 1 month. Because this has been just a one-way street largely. And if you can pull up the monthly chart for BSE as well, and the way that stock has performed, I mean, over 50%, 53% in the last 1 month or so. And largely it has two factors as the reason for it. One is the NSE IPO, for which for some reason the street believes will re-rate BSE, but more importantly, the level playing field which has now been achieved since both NSE and BSE have one weekly expiry each. NSE announced yesterday that it will be going with a nifty expiry. So neither exchanges will have a banking expiry on a weekly basis. No Bank X, no Bank Nifty. Maybe that's what's driving BSE today up about 5%. But let's talk a bit about Just Dial. Just Dial in focus. Its Q2 numbers are out. The company's profit rose 9% sequentially while margins stayed flat. The stock has reacted quite positively, come off its highs now, but still about 3% up. Mahima's bringing us all the little details, the inside story of Just Dial's numbers.
Right, Tamana. So basically the QOQ numbers have been muted, but the YOY numbers have presented a very good picture for Just Dial. In terms of QOQ numbers, net profit is up 9%, revenue is up around 1.5%. But in terms of YOY performance, the revenue is up 9.3%, EBITDA is up 68%, and net profit is up around 115%. And margins have also improved from 18.7% to 28.8%. Now, just like other new age tech platforms, this is because there has been a major increase in their other income. The other income which stood at around 103.6 crore for this quarter. It's up 30% QOQ and almost 96% YOY. So it's the other income that is actually auguring growth for the company. In terms of why this has happened? Well, sequential growth was led by higher mark-to-market gains on the back of on their treasury portfolio, and the growth was due to decline in bond yields during the quarter. Now, in terms of other key highlights and key operational metrics, where operating expense declined by 4.3%, tax rate in the first half of FY25 stood at 12%. So this was lower due to reversal of deferred taxes. And in terms of key operational metrics, well, total traffic, which is the unique visitors, was up around 9.3% QOQ and up 15% YOY. In terms of total active listings, it was up around 3% QOQ but up 15% YOY. So this is the overall picture and why, of course, the stock is zooming in trade today.
Thank you for that, Mahima. So Just Style looking good. Neeraj Diwan now joins us on the show as independent market expert. Neeraj, hi, great to speak with you. Let's talk a bit about, I think the most volatile kind of index today, which is the Nifty IT, moving once again. TCS bearing the brunt, but the rest of the IT stocks doing fairly okay. Are you liking what IT picture is looking like, or you'll wait and see some clarity when the numbers are out?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for having me on the show. I think we need to wait and see a couple of more numbers to get some clarity on the IT space. I think what we've seen is that recently we saw some move happening in mid-cap IT, which was better than the large-cap IT space. I think that is where the action will lie even going ahead. But I think still to get a better picture, let's see what Infosys, HCL Tech has to deliver. And then we can take a call on the IT space.
But Neeraj, the point being that TCS is sulking big time, and it's been sulking now for a month. Is this weakness giving an opportunity, or would you believe, as you said, that you want to wait for data? So if you have the chance right now, I'm presuming you're not exercising that chance to log into TCS.
Yeah, actually, I like TCS, it's a bellwether, and, the results are not that bad also. And the stock, as you rightly said, has been coming down, has not been doing anything much. But, I'll rather wait and see a couple of more numbers, get some sense of what Infosys is saying about the future next couple of quarters. And then we can take a bet. TCS at this price, definitely for a long-term investor, get into. But I think one should still see a couple of numbers and see what Infosys has to say for the next 2-3 quarters.
Yeah, watch out for that. But as we marked also, I think if we look at the IT space today, it's except for TCS and maybe one more, the rest of the IT stocks are actually doing okay. So that bucket isn't quite doing all that bad. It's just that TCS has had some really strong issues in trade. So bear that in mind. Okay, I think what we need to do is slip into a quick break. We're just getting started with Neeraj Diwan. Jay Bala, of course, stays on with us. A clutch of other important stocks to mark and important stories to mark. But as we hit that break, hear out Gautam Duggar of Motilal Oswal, who broke down what the different sectors might do in terms of earnings over the course of the next 3 to 6 odd months. Hear it out.
We've increased weight in ICICI, HDFC Bank. We've also introduced Kotak Bank in our model portfolio. We've added HDFC Life. We've added some of the niche alpha plays in NBFC like 5-Star Business. We've increased weightage on Angel. So overall financials have gone to a chunky overweight for us, right? And all 3 segments of financials are overweight: private bank, PSU bank, diversified financials, NBFC. So that is one thing we've done. IT is already a big overweight. So both top down and bottom up, you can say, or rather you can conclude that our portfolio today is slightly more defensive than what it has been. We are, of course, still overweight on industrials, healthcare, but we've gone underweight on auto. And consumption also, we've gone from overweight to neutral now. Some of the high flyers and discretionary names like DMart, Kalyan, we've taken out. We have instead doubled down our allocation on names like Metro and Cello, which have not performed, and which, if the festive season is good and discretionary demand recovers a little bit, with that perspective, we've added further weights in both Metro and Cello. So staples, we are underweight. We still have only Hindustan Lever in staples. So that's how we are trying to juggle around in this kind of a market where valuations are very, very punishing in mid and small caps right now. So in fact, our bias is predominantly toward large cap now. If you look at our model portfolio, 75% of our weight resides in large cap now. Only 25% is mid and small caps.
I thought I will have to come here. I'm loving it.
An experience to remember for a lifetime.
जानू ना मुझको कैसे है पा लिया इस शहर ने, लापता था मैं पहले, अपना लिया इस शहर ने, शोर भी लगे एक दिन की तरह।
NDTV World Summit 2024, October 21st and 22nd, only on NDTV Network.
When the whole day passes like a blur, the news just whizzes past, and you're trying to stay informed. It is our job to bring you news that truly matters. At Profit 360, we cut through the clutter, the long street deals, finance and policy news that could shape your tomorrow. The newsmakers, the trendsetters, and the innovators. In 30 minutes, we've got you covered. So stay ahead, stay informed, and stay profitable with Profit 360.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Welcome back. Let's pull up the Bank Nifty, taking a bit of a tumble in the sense deepening its losses. And it's been a kind of a rough day for banks. Banks, financials doing badly, Pharma's doing okay. Neeraj Diwan, Jay Bala with us. Neeraj, I want to come to you on the Pharma story. You know, we've talked about how concerns on price erosion in the US led to quite a tumble for Pharma stocks. There's a revival now. Do you think that this is a dip? No dip anymore because there's a bit of a revival, but would you buy into anything in the pharma space, especially ahead of the numbers that you'd expect this quarter?
I think last 2-3 months, pharma stocks have already run up a lot. There may have been some near-term correction, but otherwise they are, you know, if you see the likes of Divi's Lab, Sun Pharma, Pfizer, they've all run up a lot in the last 2-3 months. So I'd rather wait and see the numbers now to take a fresh call from these levels, you know, because the buy call which was there 2-3 months back has already played out. So I'd rather wait for the numbers and then take a fresh call on where they're going from these levels.
Okay, fair call. Now some stocks which are just moving off their lows of the day, I just want to mark a few of them, and Jay, I want to get your view there. So one of them, of course, is Sudarshan Chemicals. That stock is up maybe 14 or 15%, 18.7% for a Sudarshan Chemical. So it's a really big move that has happened, and I believe there is some news flow around pigment business acquisitions out there. 19.6% up for Sudarshan Chemical, so watch out for this one. There is of course, okay, now it's locked on at 20%, so it's a really strong move onto Sudarshan Chemicals in the session. Now I wonder if there is some announcement that has happened. Yes, they have announced an acquisition. I'm just pulling up that acquisition piece of news on the Bombay Stock Exchange. So Sudarshan is saying that they've entered into a definitive agreement whereby Sudarshan Europe BV, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the company in Netherlands, had acquired the global pigment business operations of the Hobach Group of Germany for total consideration of 1180 crores. We should try and get the management shortly, so watch out for that. Sudarshan Chemicals will try and get the management for you. Keep that in mind. But 20% uptick for Sudarshan Chemicals as we speak. Really strong move. Neeraj Diwan, did you have any inkling about what this could mean? It seems to be a fairly large acquisition for Sudarshan Chemical because it's an 8,400 crore company by market cap.
Yeah, and the kind of amount you're saying, what 1,200 crores or whatever for the acquisition, it's a big acquisition for the company of Sudarshan size. So I think one need to see, you know, how much is the debt in the books and how much they're going to raise for this acquisition. So often I won't have those figures. I think those figures are important. But otherwise, if you see Sudarshan Chemical last about 7-8 years, they've been steadily growing and they have given a very good return to the investor in the last 5 to 6 years. So I think they, depending on what is the debt level at and what they're going to raise for this company, I think then you can take a call from these levels, but it looks like a big acquisition.
No wonder Sudarshan in focus. I mean, no point of a technical call today at least, but Jay, for a slightly longer term, would you look at Sudarshan? You can expect an upside perhaps on Monday as well?
Yeah, probably Monday as well. But the point is, the short term is look like it's getting almost done. A little bit of upside pending, but the medium term and long term charts are very attractive and quite strong. I would expect a pullback that comes through after the short term high, somewhere about 1350, 1400. A pullback for the short term to come through to about 860 to 825. That will be a perfect re-entry point. But I don't know if things would happen as per expectations. But the long-term and medium-term charts are very strong, and the short-term is, seeing some possibilities of exhaustion. But yeah, I would definitely be a buyer if it were to come down to somewhere close to 850, 825.
Yeah, this is serious. I mean, this is just some serious stuff because, of course, it's a listed stock that they are trying to buy, and it might entail an open offer. But more importantly, as of March 2024, their revenue numbers were 2,500 crores for Sudarshan. They are making a seriously large acquisition, and the stock is up. I'm guessing this must be coming because they must be getting it at a discount because Hobak had filed for bankruptcy some time back, and therefore I'm guessing that it's coming at a very good price, which is what the street seems to be so excited about this piece of news.
Yeah. Look at the Hubak stock as well, if you can pull that up as well. So you have a bit of an uptick there, Hubak, that Sudarshan Chemicals is acquiring, and you would have possibly a bit of an uptick there as well. So Sudarshan Hubak in focus. It's still looking good on the charts if you have a chance to buy right now at 20%. There you have Hubak color into now about 3% after languishing for quite some time. All right, the next stock in focus is Cummins. Goldman Sachs has double downgraded it to a sell. Anushi is joining in to tell us why. Why is Goldman so bearish on Cummins, Anushi?
Right, Tamanna. So if you look at Cummins, we are seeing a 5% of a downtake on the stock, and this is on the account of the Goldman double downgrading the stock to a sell rating as compared to a buy earlier. The target price now stands at about 2,900, which is a 23% downside. A couple of factors that the note has pointed out, which have been in consideration. The company has also spoken about it before. First is the CPCB 4 emission norms. These are the new emission norms as compared to the CPCB 2 emission norms. The transition to this has made the diesel gensets 15 to 20% more expensive. Even if you look at the overall demand of these diesel gensets, they are expected to reduce in the medium to long term perspective with the falling battery cost, and the emphasis is that the customers are now shifting to the BESS, that is the battery energy storage system model. So the growth rate is a question mark along with the margins as these diesel gensets are becoming more expensive. So the margins are expected to moderate going forward. But so in spite of the incremental market shares which are expected, gains that are expected to take place, it's the profitability which remains as a question mark. Other than that, we have seen in the past quarter that the export scenario has been softer for the company, while the company did point out in its Q1 management conference call that this was the bottoming. They expect this to have bottomed out, but overall if you look at the previous cycles, that exports are set to remain on the weaker side as compared to the previous up cycles on the stringent emission norms. So again, the growth rate comes into the picture back again. So this downgrade that we are seeing is on the near-term margin scenario coming under pressure, and even the medium-term growth moderating. But just to reiterate on how the quarter had gone by, if you look at the numbers, there was a 4% of a revenue growth in the past quarter, while the margins had moved up to 20% as compared to 15% last quarter, and net profit had seen about a 31% of a jump. The company does maintain its 13 to 14% of revenue guidance for FY25, and the CPCB 4 plus contributed nearly about 30%, 30 to 40% of their sales in Q1 FY25. So commentary remains on the margin side of the picture and how the exports are supposed to pan out, is if that was the bottoming out or we expect more growth going forward.
Well, weakness for sure, 4.5% lower. Neeraj Diwan, Anushi, thanks for that, of course. Neeraj Diwan, any thoughts here on Cummins?
Actually, the company is a great company. See, it's made so much money for the investor. So definitely at this kind of a valuation, the valuations were anyway stretched for the sector and for the stock also. So if you get some sort of a report which is flagging some short-term concern as far as the margins or growth is concerned, that may have some impact. And anyway, I think the valuation need to correct if someone needs a fresh entry into this stock. I think one can watch the stock and see this quarter numbers also and see what the management has to say going ahead. And then I think they can maybe get an opportunity if the stock corrects a little bit more from these levels.
Okay. So Cummins 5% down, 3612. Jay Bala, is it looking interesting to you?
It does, but the stock has been consolidating for last few months from July to October in a sideways fashion between 1300 to 3400. If the stock were to close below 3400, it will be a massive breakdown. It will be reverse of what the bullish stock that I mentioned stock I mentioned a few minutes ago. It will be a reversal of that. It can drop very sharply to somewhere close to 2600. So watch out for this. If the stock were to break down below 3400 on a closing basis, that will be a sharp drawdown for the stock.
Okay, so that's a story with Cummins, and you have some interesting movements over there that we are seeing through the day. I mean, BSE is now hit an all-time high. So that is definitely one. Metals resurging quite aggressively. I mean, I'm wondering whether you're going to be seeing metals roaring back even on Monday. Neeraj, let me come to you on this. An important meet, a finance ministry meet in China will take place over the weekend. And, some of those comments will be awaited. Now, the risk here is it could go either way. It could be very disappointing, like the last meeting and the press conference after the planning body's meeting in China, after which metals took a tumble, the Hang Seng dropped nearly 10%, or it could be very, very positive. Now, if you were looking at any of the metals counters, would you want to buy into this and just take a bet, or wait and watch what happens on the weekend from China?
I think metals have done well over the last 2-3 weeks, and if someone is already holding, I think one should not exit because the meeting is happening tomorrow. One should hold on to the stock because actually, especially in the non-ferrous space, if you see stocks like Vedanta, Nalco, I think they still have upside potential and the stock can do well. If they can be, because of China news coming either way, there can be a movement next week based on that. But I think that's a short-term move. I think over the medium term, they can still do well from these levels. So I think if someone is already invested, should hold on to these stocks. If one is not invested, then they can better wait and see what happens in the meeting tomorrow and then take a call on Monday, Tuesday. I think, but among the ferrous and non-ferrous, I like non-ferrous more than the ferrous spec.
Okay, we were talking about Sudarshan Chemicals. That stock is roaring, and some important news which has come in. Its unit is set to acquire the global pigment business operations of Germany's Hubach Group. Mehika is here with more details. Yes, Mehika.
Yeah, good afternoon. So what the Sudarshan Chemicals has done is entered a definitive agreement today where its Sudarshan Europe BV, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the company, will acquire the global business operations. Now, the total consideration of the acquisition is at 127.5 million euros, which is approximately 1,180 crores. Now, the proposed transaction comprises of acquisition by Sudarshan Europe of 4 holdings of the Hubach Switzerland company, and also 100% shareholding of the Hubach Holdings, which is SARL, which is a Luxembourg-based group company. Now, a little bit about Hubach. It's a key player within the specialty chemical space and consists of organic pigments, inorganic pigments, as well as dyes, dispersions, and anti-corrosion pigments. The entire acquisition is expected to be completed in 3 to 4 months, and post-acquisition, the combined entity will comprise of a comprehensive pigment portfolio of high-quality products as per the company, and it also, strengthens a strong presence that the company has in major markets, including Europe.
Okay, so Sudarshan, in focus, we talked a bit about this, but Mihika, we're also talking about Reliance Industries. I mean, that preview, we will see its earnings being reported on Monday, and Mihika is joining in with us to tell us what the street is expecting. Yes, Mihika?
Yeah, so Q2, when you talk about the Q2 preview, well, a weaker standalone, which is the oil to chemical and oil and gas segment, is set to drag the consolidated EBITDA for Reliance Industries. Now, this is what analysts expect, and when you talk about the Bloomberg estimates on a consolidated quarter-on-quarter basis, revenues may rise 2.2% to rupees 2.34 lakh crores. EBITDA may fall 5.4% on a sequential basis. Margins are expected to contract 130 basis points to 17.1% this quarter versus 18.4% last quarter, and the net profit may rise 24.3%. So that's the outlier over there. When you talk about the segment-wise performance, when you let's talk about the standalone business, which includes the O2C and upstream oil and gas. Now, this segment accounts for around 53% of the consolidated EBITDA back in FY24. Now, the O2C segment's EBITDA is expected to fall 26 to 27% year-on-year as per brokerages like Motilal Oswal and Nuvama, and this is because of a weaker refining segment worldwide, because the benchmark Singapore GRMs actually fell 62% on a year-on-year basis. When you talk about retail, well, Prabhudas Leeladhar expects profitability of this segment to be resilient. Nuvama expects EBITDA to grow 7% year-on-year because of a 10% rise in retail area. And lastly, when you talk about Jio, well, analysts believe that segment will post a strong and steady quarter because of the tariff hikes announced by the company during a quarter. Nuvama expects EBITDA to rise 12% year-on-year and 6% quarter-on-quarter, and the growth will be mainly driven by a higher average revenue per user, which the brokerage expects to grow on a 5% rate.
Okay, thank you for that, Mihika. In fact, we were in conversation with Gautam Duggar of Motilal Oswal earlier in the day, and he talked about his expectations from RIL September quarter. Listen in.
So standalone, we have seen that Singapore GRMs have been very flattish QOQ. So there has been change in estimates around that on a full year basis. We've also cut retail estimates by about 8 to 10%. And we've also marginally tinkered around with the Jio estimates too, where we've cut by 3 to 4%. So net Reliance itself on an aggregated consolidated basis has seen about 8% of earnings downward, which is pretty big for a company of that size and that weight in the index.
Most certainly. Okay. Some stocks are doing well, some stocks have cooled off. Obviously, that's the nature of the game. But Tata Chemicals, after a 2.5% uptick, is up another 2.5% in the session today. 1181. Not that the other caustic soda stocks have done well, but so Tata Chemicals kind of standing out. We mentioned Exide, and that's done well to 3.5% higher. Good moves in both of these. Chalk and cheese, of course, no connection between the two names, but wondering, and actually one more stock, Jai Bala. So all these three to you, any of them. The third one is Polycab, is lying listless right now, but it is off from the lows of the day. In the session today is Polycab. So any of these three, Exide, Tata Chemicals, or a Polycab because of the intraday move that we've seen there.
Yeah, Polycab probably has got some pending up move to somewhere close to 8,200. The stop loss should be about 69.97. But it's probably the last leg of the move that started from the beginning of the year when it had that collapse to about 3,600. So Exide is definitely an avoid. Tata Chemicals, I was bullish on it before it spiked to 1,400. But that move, post that move, it's gone sideways, so it's a little bit of middling on the chart. Maybe it'll go back to retest 1,400. But Exide is definitely an avoid. Polycab is a very, very short-term play.
Okay. So Polycab in focus. Just want to point out what's happening in the Nifty IT. The only component in the red right now is TCS, and just pull up Persistent. Yeah, so the only component in the red is TCS. Persistent now up over 4%, nearly at its day's high and moving quite smartly. Now, Neeraj, we spoke to you earlier. You said you'll wait and watch, at least on the majors. But what about mid-cap IT players? And what about Persistent specifically?
Again, mid-cap IT has been doing well. Lately also, it's done reasonably well in the last couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, coming to the result season. So I think I would rather wait. Now you've seen a rally there. So there's no point chasing it when the result season just started. So let's take stock specific wise as and when the results come, and then take a fresh call on these stocks. Yeah, if you are actually tracking some of the stock like maybe Tata Elxsi, which came out with a decent set of numbers. Stock is expensive, but then they're doing well. The numbers were good, even the numbers which were declared. So they were good numbers, and they have a decent guidance also as far as the margins are concerned. So I think that for a person who's looking at medium to long term can be looked at even at these levels.
And down, and Tata Elxsi is a bit surprising simply because their commentary seemed to be okay. It's just probably got to do with the valuations, that they are so egregiously expensive, some of these ER&D names, that you probably see them do this a lot more, that even on a good day, if either results or commentary, that they will probably not have the best of outings. Now it's time that we take in the top closing strategy from Jay Bala. I was just trying to see if there are stocks which are really buzzing in trade, aside of Sudarshan Chemicals, of course, which we should highlight. So while we've highlighted stocks which have done very well, there are a few which are coming off. So aside of Cummins, there is weakness in Z Media. For all the fanfare that the stock had, it's really been taken to the cleaners in the last few sessions. Antony Waste is down about 3.5% too. Nureka is down about 5%. And aside of Sudarshan Chemicals, stocks with double-digit gains is Newland Labs, 13.5% higher for that one. Bandhan seems to be closing at the day's highs with the 12.5% gain. So that stock too is really the stock of the day. Excellent moves there. And Nippon Life. Nippon Life is up about 9% in trade. I don't remember the last time I saw this stock do well. So, well, lots of stocks to choose from, Jay Bala, if you wanted to do a BTST, but maybe you have something completely different. What is your top BTST or STBT as the case may be?
Yeah, it's a BTST. You saw through my pick, Nippon. Nippon, I like it, and even from a positional basis, it's probably got highs to come through to somewhere close to 800. But yeah, probably this will spill over into Monday. Stop loss at about 680 would make sense for a BTST. And but it's the move that started from March 2024. That will probably make a peak around 790, 810. So that's from a positional basis. So be conscious of that. This is probably the last leg of a move.
Okay, so that's the BTST call coming in, and Nippon Life, one of them. Neeraj, would you venture, not a BTST call, but anything that you're looking out for come Monday, and view on RIL? RIL numbers are also out later Monday.
Actually, I'm a fundamental analyst, so really no BTST call I can give. But for a medium-term perspective, I think as some names in FMCG like ITC, which has corrected recently, looks interesting in the large cap space. Then I think PSU banks, let a couple of numbers come, but I think State Bank is looking good at these levels. So among the large cap space, these two names is what I can think of for a short to medium-term perspective.
Two stocks which are locked on an upper circuit. We spoke to one of them yesterday, which is TRIL. The other one is Wokhard, which has got an approval today for a drug. Any thoughts on either of them fundamentally?
Wokhard is the other one you said?
TRIL, or Transformers and Rectifiers. After the numbers have come out, it's been on a success. 4 or 5 days of consecutive upper circuits for this one.
Actually, whether it's Transformer Rectifier or you see Voltam, these stocks have run up a lot in the last just few months. So at these levels, to take a fresh call of entry is really difficult. If someone is holding on to these stocks, because there's so much of order flow which is coming in, the growth which is coming, one should hold on to these stocks. But I'll not really recommend someone to enter, the transformer rectifier kind of stocks at these levels? Wockhardt, I don't have any view on.
Wockhardt, okay, you don't have any view there, but on pharma, Jay, I want to come to you on some of the pharma names. You're saying that most of them have already run up, but if you had to pick, what would you look at within the pharma pack which still has an upside? I mean, would you look, for example, at Cipla, which is hurting today? A brokerage report has hit Cipla, but nevertheless, do you see it well poised for an upside?
Yeah, I like Lupin at current levels, and probably it's got further upsides to come through. And if you recall, Wockhardt, we had spoken about it on NDTV Profit here when it was about 230, and that was a medium-term pick, and that's performed pretty quite well then. And Nifty Pharma, as such, I've been bullish for several months now, and I still see further upsides to come through. But as long as the index can hold above 22,900. I think the momentum still continues to the upside.
All right, stay on with us. I mean, of course, result season in focus. We've not quite come in full steam ahead with results yet, but some numbers coming in. Anand Rathi, one of them, came up with the second quarter numbers yesterday, and the numbers were largely in line with estimates. Revenue and net profit up by at least 32% on a yearly basis. But is this growth sustainable? We caught up with the Deputy CEO, Feroz Aziz, and asked him exactly that. Listen in.
Of course, market has been buoyant, and your prayers have been there. So we have done well. But let me tell you that 20 to 25% is our guidance. And we very firmly believe this is possible consistently, if not quarter on quarter. We will try quarter on quarter, but year on year, 25% growth, 20 to 25% growth for the next 10 years, in my opinion, is sacrosanct. Of course, I'm telling you to my best ability of today's knowledge. I would attach a 90% plus probability to this event, knowing the business, whatever I know of. Point one. Point two, if you look at this whole perception that financial services business is going to be doing well only when there's a tailwind, that's what we want to prove otherwise. And that's been our professional aspiration, to create a market agnostic financial services business, which is tough to create, but we are trying to. Now, let's assume if you look at this journey of 3 years of being listed, we have done 12 quarterly results. The first quarter from a market standpoint was minus 9.6%, which was the FY23 first quarter, which was June 22, when US interest rates went through the roof. Nifty fell minus 9.6. The growth year on year for us that quarter was 33.6. The second worst quarter was minus 4% of Nifty, which it was FY23 again, but quarter 4. There also we grew 26% on private wealth and 23.6% on consolidated basis. So these were the two worst quarters of our listed existence. If you see the growth in those 2 quarters, that gives us more happiness than in a good quarter growing 32, 35%. So our professional aspiration is to build a market agnostic. And how is that possible? Like, which was your question. Sorry for the longish kind of an answer. There are 4 engines of growth. One is God's gift, which is doing well for clients, can increase the revenue because the growth of that 17,000 crores. If I make profits for my clients, my revenues grow. That's one leg of growth. The second is I have 30 clients per RM. So we have 374 RMs. That means I can handle 7,000 more clients without hiring a new RM. That's the second leg of growth. That is called capacity utilization. The third leg of growth is my existing 10,900 clients have almost 1 lakh crore outside. Once I do what I'm speaking, they start giving us money from outside. That's called penetration growth. That's the third cylinder of our growth. The fourth cylinder of growth is I have 400 odd people whom are apprentices who are being trained for 2-3 years to get promoted as new RMs. That's the fourth leg of growth. With these 4 mutually exclusive legs of growth, we believe and we pray to the Lord that our effort is good enough to grow at 20-25% for long periods of time, because 10-12% is implied growth in this business.
All right, so that was Feroz Aziz praying to the Lord that their efforts are good. Well, a lot of prayers over the next couple of days. Jay Bala, before we let you go, what's your top Dussehra pick?
Cash. I think there is a short-term correction that's coming through. So hold on to cash. You'll have low-lying fruits come through to wait for a few months. And those who don't have cash to bargain basement hunt when there is no cash, they'll be losing out. So hold on to your cash.
Okay, fair call. Well, Neeraj Dewan, we'll probably take a Diwali pick from you closer to time because we have to now thank both of you for joining in today and giving us your thoughts. Just about a minute and a half left for the markets to shut shop. But happy Dussehra to you and your families, both of you. And about a minute and a half, let's quickly go across to the heat map because we know that the Nifty Bank has sulked, the Nifty IT has been mixed and metals have come off a little bit, but more green than red, which is actually not a bad sign, if you will, because as you see, the Nifty 52 is kind of flattened out now. Trend, top draw, but metals going into a possible China stimulus with a bit of a bang. It's a risky trade, must say, because the articles also stated that they might not do anything tomorrow and might do it in the next 6 months. So this might well turn out to be a case of sour grapes too, who knows. And lastly, we know banks are doing badly, but what has been TCS's loss has been the gain for some of the other IT companies like HCL Tech, Tech Mahindra and Infosys. Absolutely. In fact, a lot of the mid-cap IT companies also doing well. We'll just quickly pull up the advanced client ratio just to show you the broader breadth of the market and how the day has panned out. When we started the show, the bears were on top. The bulls just somehow seem to be on top, but not too much, really. It's been a bit of a muted day. I think people are taking Jay Bala's advice and holding on to cash, waiting for that bottom to come in, or maybe spending some on the festive season, which would be something that the streets need. But let's pull up the broader indices as well. Before we get to the top gainers and losers this afternoon. The broader market is doing better than the key indices. I think that's the story of the afternoon. The small cap to 50, almost 0.5% up, which is great. So even as FIIs continue to sell, we'll wait and see what the figures are today. But more domestic money coming in for sure. Let's pull up the top gainers and losers. And on the winning side, you'll definitely see Pharma, metals, IT except TCS. Those are some of the counters or the kinds of companies that are working. But Bandhan Bank is the story. Just a 12, and how strong through the day. 12% gain there. Nippon Life doing well as well. Sonata Soft, Triveni Turbine. On the losing side, Westlife Food has been added to that list. But at least number 1 and number 3 is Notes, Cummins and Credit Access, and Star Health, of course, that data breach. So I reckon, Neeraj, more stock-specific, result-oriented action through the next week as well. Yes, but just two things. One, a bet that you and I have won against Agam, because Bombay Stock Exchange, the stock should come up on your screen. That is ending up 8% higher. So what has been NSE's loss is BSE's gain. We should pull up that stock for you. Yeah. Stunning move, ending at the day's highs. And the other one is, of course, Sudarshan Chemicals, a rocking announcement-led up move there. Maybe not 20% as we close, maybe slightly lower, but still a strong one. Yeah, definitely 14% up as we close. So those were the two sparklers, I would say, going into closing trade. But those might be more difficult to find over the next week as, the big triggers sort of slow down. It's all going to be about results. But with that, that's all the time we have from Neeraj, me and the team that put the show together. Wishing all of you a very happy Dussehra in advance, and we'll see you back Monday.
I thought I will have to come here.
I'm loving it. An experience to remember for a lifetime.
जानू ना मुझको कैसे है पा लिया इस शहर ने लापता था मैं पहले अपना लिया इस शहर ने शोर भी लगे एक दिन की तरह
NDTV World Summit 2024, October 21st and 22nd, only on NDTV Network. NDTV World Summit 2024, October 21st and 22nd, only on NDTV Network.
When the whole day passes like a blur, the news just whizzes past, and you're trying to stay informed. It is our job to bring you news that truly matters. At Profit 360, we cut through the clutter. The Wall Street deals, finance and policy news that could shape your tomorrow. The newsmakers, the trendsetters, and the innovators. In 30 minutes, we've got you covered. So stay ahead, stay informed, and stay profitable with Profit 360.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
Let's be real, guys. There are many financial
Welcome, you're watching The Big Story. The question over who will be the successor of the Tata Group has come to an end. That is the Tata Trusts at least. Noel Tata has been appointed as the chair of the Tata Trust in a unanimous decision. Ratan Tata's brother will now lead the two trusts that control 66% shares in Tata Sons. Now, Noel Tata has been a key figure in Tata Group's growth since the early 2000s, but reticent, not really in the public eye, and has not preferred to be. He is the vice chairman of Tata Steel and watch company Titan. After Ratan Tata's death, the spotlight has turned to Noel Tata. But who is he, and what could his leadership mean for the future of this global giant? Let's take a closer look.
Aged 67, Noel began his career in the early 2000s and took on the role of chairman and managing director of Tata International in 2011, driving the group's global expansion. Under his leadership, Tata Trends' Zudio brand has made waves with affordable fashion. Beyond business, Noel's influence is anchored in his role as a trustee of Tata Trusts, which hold over 65% of Tata Sons, the group's holding company. His leadership has recently extended to key positions at Titan and Tata Steel, further reinforcing his significance in driving the group's international strategy and future growth. With his deep ties to the Tata legacy and an expanding global portfolio, Noel is emerging as a pivotal figure in the conglomerate's next chapter.
All right, Sajit Mangat also joining me in, and we're going to, in the course of this show, try to understand what this change means, what it means for the legacy of the Tata Group. Sajit, I think that becomes important, and whether this makes any real difference to the running of the Tata companies. Let me start with the second part first, because I think that's of wide interest. Does anything really change in the way or the direction in which Tata companies are run?
It does not change, because 2 years ago there was a clear demarcation with respect to the responsibilities and who will head the philanthropy, which is through Tata Trust, and who will be heading Tata Sons, and that is what exactly the change meant. In 2022, there was a resolution which was passed by Tata Sons and which is sponsored by Sir Dorabji Tata Trust and Sir Ratan Tata Trust, that as long as Tata Sons or the Tata Trust holds at least 40% stake in these in Tata Sons, the chairman of Tata Sons will be separate, and the chairman of Tata Trust will be separate. They will not be any member of the Tata Trust could be a board of director of Tata Sons, but he can never be the chairman of the board of Tata Sons there. So that's the demarcation which came into place. It also gave special rights to both the trusts, because as part of that committee which will select the chairman of Tata Sons, there will be three nominees which will come from the two trusts. There will be one nominee who will be the existing board of director, and the fifth one will be an independent person from outside who will come as part of the entire selection process for the selection of the chairman of the Tata Sons. So it basically, makes clear walls on the responsibility that Tata Sons has with respect to its companies that it governs and the stakeholders, and Tata Trust, what is the philosophy and the charter they have set out.
So church and state, that kind of a wall in place now. All right, let's go across now to someone who knows the workings of the Tata Group very well, has known Ratan Tata very well and closely. Sohail Seth, founder and managing partner at Council Age India, is with us now. Sohail, thank you for taking out the time and speaking with us here at NDTV Profit. And it's a bit of a poignant conversation, because till 24 hours ago we were all talking about a loss which, in a way, so many people felt personally, even if they didn't know Mr. Ratan Tata, but everyone felt like they lost something. And today we're talking about what next, and I suppose such is life. But give us a sense, is this something that was always on the cards? Because it's been done very smoothly, without any fuss, in a very short period of time.
So, as you said, and you alluded to the church and the state, which, by the way, I'm glad you did. It's a long forgotten analogy. This was very clear, and it was also equally clear to everyone, excuse me, that the transition would be smooth, it would be respectful, and it would be dignified. Much like Ratan Tata led his life, much like, I can tell you, I've known Noel for years, and there is no one better than Noel Tata to take over from those gigantic shoes, for three reasons. One is he understands the workings of the Tata Group, because he's worked in the Tata Group for ages, unlike any of the other trustees who are there today. Mahi Mistri, to my mind, is the only other person who has been close to Ratan Tata and who has seen the group evolve. Noel Tata, to my mind, taking over ensures two things, as your colleague was also saying. See, Tata Sons has been led formidably by N. Chandrasekaran. And for everyone should know that Ratan Tata was relieved when N. Chandrasekaran took over as chairman Tata Sons, and his relief was vindicated and continues to be vindicated in the performance of Tata Sons. That separation was needed and was made in 2022. And today, you've seen it's smooth, it's dignified, and it's swift. Because the trusts are what the business of Tatas was all about. The founders created this enterprise only with a view of giving back to society for the greater good, as was often said. When Jamshedji Nasarwanji Tata began, then Dorab Tata took over, it was very clear that they were in the business of serving humanity, of serving society. And therefore, I'm delighted. And, I just sent Noel a message. Then I spoke to him. I said, the beauty is that Ratan Tata will be smiling from the heavens, because you'll have done exactly what he would have wanted you to do. You have done it with grace. You have done it with a sense of continuity and an even greater commitment to purpose. What better a way could there have been? There was,
Sohail, you of course knew and did the last very detailed interview with Ratan Tata as well. Is this something that he always had in mind, that Noel would take over this role?
So let me tell you one thing about Mr. Tata. I never ever discussed it with him, but I knew it was coming the day Noel was appointed as trustee on the two major trusts. And let me also say, the children, whether it is Neville or Leah or Maya, they are an imprint of the Tata family and the Tata way of life. So when even the kids got on, in my heart, I knew, and after Noel and the kids got on, I did tell Mr. Tata, I said it's such a great thing that there will be continuity, that there'll be people who'll be happy. You know, remember, all said and done, Tabanna, I'm delighted that there's a Parsi at the head. I'm totally delighted. I'm not, communal or a discriminator. But I think it's a good thing because even in Noel, you have decency, you have grace. Noel has been all his life, he's been low key. And all the people who said, oh, but Noel is running this company. Today, see where Zudio is.
Oh, yes.
See where Trent is. See where Tata Retail is. It says a lot about character when you succeed and embrace success with grace, with dignity, and with some quietude. And that, to my mind, I'm delighted. On the one hand, I'm deeply sad about what happened and how we've lost, to my mind, a giant of a man. And on the other, I'm delighted because I know he too will be wherever he is. And he'll heave a sigh of relief. And I'm sure even Chandra, who, as I said, has done a formidable job of leading Tata Sons, he too will be happy. Because what would Chandra want? He would want the dividend that Tata Sons goes to a trust which is headed by a human being who will ensure the benefits are provided in multifarious ways to society at large.
Sohail, Sajid here. Do you think Noel will be able to push the philanthropy much more aggressively across to the society? Mr. Tata has created many institutions over the last 2 decades. Do you see Noel also, going that part and creating newer, institutions for the society?
Absolutely. And, I wouldn't use the word aggressive because that is not part of the lexicon in the Tata way of life. Yeah. But he will do it. Please remember, when Noel started out, everyone doubted, will retail do this? He's done it. He's done it with aplomb. He's taken the footprint globally. Also remember that with Tata International, he was already the global face of the House of Tata way before. Way before. The fact that he's vice chairman Tata Steel, he's on the board of Titan, means that he's intricately even involved with the running of some of the operating companies of Tata Sons. So I don't think the word is aggressive. What had happened was, and Sajid, this is an important message for your viewers also to know, that at one point in time, Tata Trusts had begun to do a lot of things. And what Mr. Tata did was he assimilated all of that. He then made it pretty coordinated, driven through verticals. And those are continuing to do work. And they're doing amazing work. For instance, Noel is as committed to cancer centers as Mr. Tata was, as Ratan was. So I see absolutely not even a blip in the manner that this whole thing has happened. And I can tell you it's good for the House of Tata.
Yeah.
It's even better for our country.
Just on that part, Noel Tata's commitment to some of the same causes that the Tata Trust has taken forward, and personally Ratan Tata was committed to, so the Cancer Trust. But what are his own sort of very near and dear issues? So, for example, Mr. Ratan Tata, very passionate about animal rights and has worked towards things like that. Is there something, to your knowledge, that Noel would want to focus on in the philanthropic scale, while of course continuing all the good work that's taking place?
I think Noel, if you know Noel as I do, Noel is a very, very strategic human being. He is going to be as committed to the small animals hospital and to animal welfare as Ratan Tata was. To expect a carbon copy would be unfair on both Mr. Tata and on Noel. A. B. Please remember that Noel was part of the trust when many of these decisions that you are talking about came to fruition. So I don't see any departure. I can only tell you one thing, Tamanna, that with Noel there, with Melli there, Noel being the half-brother, being a Tata, Melli being the person who was the closest confidant of Ratan Tata, I see continuity. I see the same level of commitment rather than the word aggression. And I see the same level and exactitude in terms of purpose.
in terms of what the relationship was, and I know it's sounding a little intrusive, Sohail, but believe me, this is such a private family and people just want to know, which is why I'm asking, what was the kind of relationship equation between Ratan Tata and Noel Tata? Did they work together often? How would it work going, how was it?
It was good. I mean, there are people who will cast aspersions on everyone. I mean, even your family, my family. Oh, do you talk to your brother? When was the last time you had dinner with him? All that kind of nonsense. But they were together. Yeah. And let me tell you, Ratan was deeply, deeply, deeply fond of Noel's children as well. Whether it was Leah or Maya or Neville. Neville, he took to Neville like you can't imagine. Sometimes I used to joke. In fact, at times I would joke to Noel that, what if R&D skips a generation? Just jokingly. Because
that was the buzz. It's funny you say that, Sohail, but that was the buzz.
It's utter rubbish. Let me tell you, Ratan Tata loved Noel deeply. Did he have some issues? He may have. He never shared them. So anyone who tells you, oh, Mr. Tata told me that he had this issue or that issue is lying. Because Mr. Tata wasn't that kind of person. He wasn't a gossip producer. He wasn't the kind of person who would say, oh, but I don't agree with him, blah, blah, blah. Let's not forget, and this I don't know if you remember, after October 24, 2016, when Cyrus was asked to resign, he didn't, then he was thrown out. Yeah. There were EGMs held in all the operating companies. There was also an EGM held for Tata Sons. And guess who spoke in the most vociferously organized, committed manner? Noel Tata. Noel Tata spoke against the value desecration and the value degradation that had happened at the house of Tata by his own brother-in-law. Give the man some credit. Noel Tata could have easily just kept quiet. But that's why I'm telling you the same seeds of a principled approach, of firmness, of courage are in Noel as they were in Ratan.
And what about the working relationship between Noel Tata and N. Chandra? Of course, now they already work together, but now in this capacity.
Again, excellent. I was there yesterday at NCPA. You should have seen the way Chandra and Noel were. I'm from theatre. I've done 167 plays, Tamanna. I know a thing or two about body language. You can immediately make out ki body language kaisi hai. Always close. Please remember, Chandra is, and you know this, you run a business chat. Chandra is a formidable professional. And he also is in the same grain of decency and dignity. These are not people, who are tapodis or, lawa. They're not like riffraff. These are decent people, yeah. They know how to behave. They have grace. They have dignity. Also, please understand, Noel was already on the trusts. Chandra has been chairman Tata Sons since February 2017. They have an excellent relationship. My advice to all these people who fill your ears and the ears of a million other people is, rather than fill ears, why don't you have them cleaned? Because we always hear the wrong things. And let me tell you, this is a great relationship. It will be a great partnership.
Of course.
And Sajid and Tamanna on October 11, 2025, do a one-year anniversary show on Noel Tata's first year at Tata Trust, and we'll be still saying the same things. We will be still talking about purpose. We'll talk about integrity. We'll talk about commitment. We'll talk about the greater good, and we'll talk about giving back in great measure.
I hope we will be able to convince him to come on camera and talk about this.
That is your problem. I'm not your guest relations executive yet.
No, I was going to invite you back a year from now, but
if I'm alive, I will be there.
Oh God, willing, of course you will be. But thank you so much, Sohail. Always a pleasure to chat. Thank you for taking out the time and speaking with us.
Thank you so much. Lovely Sajid, lovely Tamanna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And let me tell you, today is a very, very happy day on the back of an extremely sad day. But then, after every dark night, there's a springing dawn.
Yeah. And the way things were handled was with great dignity. Thank you so much. In fact, let me go across to Pallavi Nahata, my colleague who's at the World Trade Center where that meeting was taking place, where the decision was taken. This is the offices of the Tata Trust in Mumbai. Yes, Pallavi.
We're here outside the World Trade Center where a short while back Noel Tata was appointed as Ratan Tata's successor. The Tata Trust board meet was underway, and the reason this is critical is because the ownership of Tata Sons is largely held by two key trusts, that is the Sir Ratan Tata Trust and the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust, which together comprise over half of the ownership of Tata Sons. Noel Tata was being seen as a front runner for the position, and he was already in both the Sir Ratan Tata Trust as well as in the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust. Today as well, we did not manage to get a bite from him. He continues to remain media shy, but of the little we do know about him is the various positions he has held in the Tata group of companies so far. He currently chairs several companies within the Tata portfolio. These include Trent, Tata International, Voltas. He's also vice chairman of Tata Steel and Titan, and has been instrumental in the conglomerate's growth since the early 2000s. His leadership experience did, of course, put him in a good place for becoming a successor in the Tata leadership hierarchy, a step towards which we saw today.
Okay, H.P. Ranina with us, lawyer, Supreme Court, to speak more on the significance really of this shift in a sense. Mr. Ranina, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate you taking out the time. We just want to understand, what the role of the Tata Trust is in the big picture, because a lot of our viewers would be wondering if Tata Trust is largely a philanthropic organization. Does it really matter who's at the helm? Why don't you start there? Why does this really matter?
Yeah, Tamana, thank you for having me on the show. I think Tata Trusts have a role to play, the role which the founder Jamshedji Tata had laid down, namely that you create wealth and you share the wealth with the community. So Tata Trust shares the wealth which is created by the Tata group of companies. And that is why this correlation between Tata Trusts and Tata group of companies is so crucial. It's not just control, it's not just management. Management is diverse. It is entirely in the hands of professionals in the Tata group, which is headed by Chandrasekhar. But apart from that, the Tata Trust makes sure that whatever profits are generated and received by way of dividends by the Tata Trust are spent for the good of the community, for the country at large. And this is why the Tata Trusts have been so good in making sure that not only do they spend money in India, but now they've even gone abroad. It's done charities abroad, done a lot of during the COVID period. And the Tata Trusts are now fulfilling the real objective for which the Tata companies were set up, namely not private profit, but social good. And that is where the Tata Trusts remain as the prime factor, the prime agent for pursuing the goal of the founders of the Tata family.
Mr. Ranina, when Mr. Tata took over the trust, and he brought in a professional management in place to manage the day-to-day affairs of the trust activities, because there were around 14 trusts under the two trusts, Sir Dorabji and Sir Ratan Tata Trust. Do you see a much more evolution of this entire structure going forward under Noel Tata as he takes over the reins of philanthropy for the Tata Group?
That's true. What you're saying is right. Professionalism has to be brought in all charitable trusts. It is a fallacy to think that charitable trust should be run by just family members. Professionalism has to be brought in. And one of the professionals who has recently been brought in is Mahi Mistri, was very close to Mr. Ratan Tata, and Melli is virtually doing a fantastic job looking after the day-to-day affairs, because don't forget, Noel has his hands full. He's already looking after so many companies, and to expect one individual to look after also the trust may be very difficult. And therefore, the professionalism has set in. Mahi Mistri is now looking after these trusts. Noel's younger children, Leah, Maya, and Neville are also being brought into the other trusts. So in the next 5 to 7 years, they will be making sure that the trusts are run entirely on professional lines, and the objects of the trust are to be further because trusts also have to produce the results. It's no use just spending money. You have to make sure that the money is properly spent and it goes for the object for which it is spent. And you get real value for the rupee when you do spend money for a charitable purpose. So that is where professionalism comes in, and that is where I think the Tata Trust will have to play a very crucial role. Professionalize charitable activities.
Mr. Ranina, if you look at the trust, for the first time I'm seeing trust putting out its entire annual report out where it's spending its money, in which sectors it's spending money, whether it is in institutions, whether it's to individuals for education or health. This kind of transparency is something which should be adopted by other charity organizations going forward. And while this is a beginning, we are seeing also corporatization of philanthropy in a good way, in that sense that it bringing more professional people into this field. Do you see a further fill up coming in to this kind of transparency and the way philanthropy has to move forward in ensuring that it delivers to the society?
Yes, I think Tata Trust should be the role model for every charitable trust in India and outside India. It should be the role model for everybody to follow. And that is where I'm very confident that under Noel Tata and Mahi Mistri and the others, this will be the primary charitable institution, not only of India, but globally. And this is how India comes into the global scenario. Today, India is now going to become a global power. Global power, not only in terms of wealth, not only in terms of industry, not only in terms of technology, not only in terms of computer sciences, but also in terms of charitable institutions. And this is where Tata Trust will now play a very crucial role in making India a global power, even on the philanthropy stage.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Ranina, for speaking with us. And to all our viewers tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. What we've done, we attempted to do through this show is just explain to you how important this big shift is. It's a paradigm in the sense, an end of an era, and of course, the beginning of a new one with Mr. Noel Tata at the helm. Thank you for watching.
I thought I will have to come here.
I'm loving it. An experience to remember for a lifetime.
जानू ना मुझको कैसे है पा लिया इस शहर ने लापता था मैं पहले अपना लिया इस शहर ने शोर भी लगे एक दिन की
NDTV World Summit 2024, October 21st and 22nd, only on NDTV Network.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
Let's be real, guys. There are many financial experts out there. Which stocks to target, what's good for long term, when to buy, when to sell. How do you stay ahead of all the financial noise to achieve your dreams?
You can accomplish all your financial dreams. Let us worry about giving you the right investing insights on the Portfolio Manager.
Bro, what are you doing?
I'm trading FNOs.
So, have you made any money?
Oh, it's simple.
If you think the market is moving upwards, just buy Nifty call option. But if you think the market could slide downwards,
simplifying future.
The board appoints Noel Tata as chairman of Tata Trusts. Sources tell NDTV Profit in a unanimous decision. Ratan Tata, 67-year-old half-brother, will head the Tata Trusts, which together own 65.3% of Tata Sons. Nifty Sensex closed lower for the second week. Sectoral indices end higher at close. Nifty Pharma rises the most and Nifty Realty is the top loser. Adani Enterprises 4,200 crore rupee QIP gets subscribed 4 times. Key participants include GQG Partners, Quant Mutual Fund and SBI Life Insurance. Rupee falls below 84 to a dollar level for the first time, pressured by concerns over the recent jump in oil prices due to rising West Asia conflict, as well as the exodus of foreign money from equity market. Terrorism is also a serious challenge to global peace and security, says Prime Minister Modi as he urges cooperation to combat the menace at the 19th East Asian Summit in Laos. Conflict in West Asia escalates. Israeli airstrikes hit a densely populated area in Beirut, killing 22 civilians. NDTV Profit brings you a ground report. Well, good evening and welcome. You are watching NDTV Profit and this is Profit 360. I'm your host, Nupur Talwar Suri. Well, the biggest news that's coming in today, of course, is from the Tata Group, where Noel Tata has been appointed the chairman of Tata Trusts, which consists of the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust and the Sir Ratan Tata Trust. Now, the board arrived at a unanimous decision after a meeting earlier today, and Pallavi Nahata is reporting on this and joins us with the details.
We're here outside the World Trade Center, where a short while back Noel Tata was appointed as Ratan Tata's successor. The Tata Trust board meet was underway, and the reason this is critical is because the ownership of Tata Sons is largely held by 2 key trusts, that is the Sir Ratan Tata Trust and the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust, which together comprise over half of the ownership of Tata Sons. Noel Tata was being seen as a front runner for the position, and he was already in both the Sir Ratan Tata Trust as well as in the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust. Today as well, we did not manage to get a bite from him. He continues to remain media shy, but of the little we do know about him is the various positions he has held in the Tata group of companies so far. He currently chairs several companies within the Tata portfolio. These include Trent, Tata International, Voltas. He's also vice chairman of Tata Steel and Titan, and has been instrumental in the conglomerate's growth since the early 2000s. His leadership experience did, of course, put him in a good place for becoming a successor in the Tata leadership hierarchy, a step towards which we saw today.
All right, Pallavi, thank you very much for that. Now, with the Tata Group poised for change, Noel Tata is stepping into the spotlight. Who is he and what could his leadership mean for the future of this global giant? Let's take a closer look.
Aged 67, Noel began his career in the early 2000s and took on the role of chairman and managing director of Tata International in 2011, driving the group's global expansion. Under his leadership, Tata Trends' Zudio brand has made waves with affordable fashion. Beyond business, Noel's influence is anchored in his role as a trustee of Tata Trusts, which hold over 65% of Tata Sons, the group's holding company. His leadership has recently extended to key positions at Titan and Tata Steel, further reinforcing his significance in driving the group's international strategy and future growth. With his deep ties to the Tata legacy and an expanding global portfolio, Noel is emerging as a pivotal figure in the conglomerate's next chapter.
Well, Well, but what does this mean for the future of Tata Trusts? I'm now joined by Sajith, who will be breaking down what this change in leadership essentially means for the Tata Trust. Hi, Sajith. Sajith, so this is the biggest news that's coming in this evening. Take us through how this could change Tata Trust, because there's a new man at the helm now, and he will bring with him changes, perhaps.
True, there is a new person at Tata Trust who will be heading the entire philanthropy initiative of the Tata Group. But to put it in simple, the legacy which has been which was left by Mr. Ratan Tata, it's going to be a continuity to that, because Noel already was part of some of the trusts as a trustee, whether it was a Sir Ratan Tata Trust or the Sir Dorabji Tata Trust. He was part of it. He was inducted into it as part of the transition which was there, and with this move where he has been made the chairman of the Tata Trust, he now moves into the executive committee of the Tata Trust, which takes care of the day-to-day operations of the Tata Trust activities. I mean, remember that while there are two major trusts which are there, there are allied trusts associated with these trusts, and in total there are around 14 trusts which are managed by the Tata Trust as an umbrella, and it requires a lot of coordination between all the trusts and trustees, so that there is a concentrated contribution towards various initiatives, whether it is in healthcare, whether it's in rural upliftment or education or sanitation. The trust ensures that the money is pooled and put to use in a very affordable, in a very effective manner, so that it gets a desired result, and at the same time it's a purpose of giving back to the society, which is the philosophy of the Tata Group. So there is not going to be any major thing with respect to a corporate side of it, but on a philanthropy side of it, we will see some measures where Noel will bring in his expertise, his vision of how to take the Tata legacy and the philanthropy going forward.
Oh yes, absolutely, Sajid. Thank you very much for joining us and breaking that down for us. Now, going ahead, of course, Noel Tata will head Tata Trust, which owns about 65.3% shares in Tata Sons. In fact, Agam is joining in to tell us what the Tata Trust ownership pattern looks like.
So we now know that Noel Tata has been appointed as a chairman on the board of Tata Trusts, but it is perhaps important to understand the ownership of Tata Trusts in Tata Sons. So at the moment, Tata Trusts on a cumulative basis own around 65.3% stake in Tata Sons, and even in this stake there are two key trusts which hold as much as 50%. Now among these two key trusts, we have Sir Ratan Tata Trust as well as Sir Dorabji Tata Trust, and we have 5 board members which are common in both these trusts, namely Vijay Singh, Venu Srinivasan, Noel Tata, Mahi Mistri, as well as Darius Kambata. Now moving in, perhaps it's also important to see and take a look at the Tata family tree. So we do know that Noel Tata is Ratan Tata's half-brother, and Noel Tata also has 3 children who are also actively involved in Tata Group companies. Noel Tata himself is currently the chairman of Trent, Tata International Limited, Voltas, as well as Tata Investment Corp, and he's also the vice chairman for Tata Steel as well as Titan Company. Moving on, as far as children are concerned, we have Leah Tata. She is currently the vice president at the Indian Hotels. We have Maya Tata, and she's associated with Tata Capital, as well as Neville Tata, and he's associated with Trent as well, and he overlooks the leadership team at Star Bazaar. That said, it's certainly going to give you an idea about what's in store with respect to leadership going forward, but that's the latest update with respect to the Tata Group.
All right, Agam, thank you for that. Now, as the Tata Group enters a new era, Mahi Mistri emerges as a significant player. But who is he, and what connections does he hold within this influential family? Here's a report.
Mahi Mistri is the director at Meherji Palonji Group, which has a diverse portfolio in specialty coatings, logistics, finance, and more. He is also the first cousin of late Cyrus Mistri, former chairman of Tata Sons. Mahi Mistri was a long-time friend of Ratan Tata. In October 2022, Mahi was appointed to the boards of 2 major Tata Trusts, Sir Dorabji Tata Trust and Sir Ratan Tata Trust, which together control over 60% of Tata Sons. He also joined the Tata Education and Development Trust and has been a trustee at Tata Medical Center since 2014. Known for his unwavering support to Ratan Tata during the tumultuous events following Cyrus's ousting in 2016, Mehli's loyalty has placed him at the heart of the Tata legacy.
Well, now moving on to what the markets look like today. Well, the Nifty and the Sensex closed lower for a second week, with sectoral indices mostly ending higher at close. However, Nifty Pharma rose the most and Nifty Realty was the top loser. Neeraj is joining in with a wrap of all the action.
Well, interesting session for the markets in that we've now gotten used to the index consolidating in a 500-point range, and today made no effort to break out either direction. So no drop downs, majors, no very large attempts at a high as well. And Bank Nifty was the culprit. It certainly came off in the session today. IT was a mixed bag because while TCS didn't do well, there were stocks like HCL Tech, Tech Mahindra and Infosys, which had a pretty serious session too. So in some sense, there it was balanced out. But banks certainly sulked in the session today. HDFC Bank, ICICI, Axis, all of them were down. Metals had a good move because there's an expectation that China will give a stimulus sometime at a point of time this weekend, and therefore there's an expectation that metals might do well on Monday. So it's a bit of a trade, hope trade if you will. Let's wait and watch if it materializes. So that's as far as the large caps go. As far as the broader end of the spectrum goes, you had some very serious moves that came into bottom-up stock names led by news flow. So Sudarshan Chemical, an acquisition, large one, up 14%. There was strength in Just Dial after the numbers, up about 4%. Bombay Stock Exchange with NSE now being told to have only one major index as a derivative expiry, and they've chosen the Nifty 50, and therefore BSE took gains to it and ended about 8% higher. And then there were a clutch of other names, of course, which had decent moves. There was TRIL, Wokhard, both of which were up 5%, Exide, which was up about 3.5%. So a clutch of those stocks had some decent moves as well. On the flip side, not too many. I mean, there were maybe a stock or two which might have come off a little bit. Adani Enterprises may be a bit of a disappointment because the QIP was very well subscribed, but the stock didn't do too much. But all in all, not a bad day of trade, more of what we've seen in the last few days, with no serious attempt to break out on either side.
All right, Neeraj, thank you very much for that. Now, earlier today, we spoke to Gautam Duggar from Motilal Oswal, who told us about his top sectoral picks.
Increased weight in ICICI, HDFC Bank. We've also introduced Kotak Bank in our model portfolio. We've added HDFC Life. We've added some of the niche alpha plays in NBFC like 5-Star Business. We've increased weightage on Angel. So overall financials have gone to a chunky overweight for us, right? And all three segments of financials are overweight: private bank, PSU bank, diversified financials, NBFC. So that is one thing we've done. IT is already a big overweight. So both top down and bottom up, you can say, or rather you can conclude that our portfolio today is slightly more defensive than what it has been.
Now, TCS kicked off the IT earnings season yesterday with revenue falling in line while profit and margin failed to meet estimates. Now, Sandeep Agarwal, fund manager and co-founder, PF Sowillo Investments, spoke to us about the earnings, and he told us that the worst is over.
Fundamentally, these numbers also suggest that the worst is behind and things will improve from here. Number one. Number two, if you see, I'm more positively surprised with the recovery in the BFSI, and it also clearly suggests what we saw in Accenture numbers, that consultancy is down, and that is what is reflecting in North American decline, at the same time BFSI uptick. So it is, in my view, positive from the growth perspective. It seems that worst is behind and things will pick up. But at the same time, I would also say that all these stocks have run up quite a bit in last 6-8 months, and as I've said many times earlier, that this is a sector where you can make 15% annually in the large names and 15-20% in the mid and small names, depending on where you are.
The Indian rupee breached the crucial mark of 84 against the dollar and hit an all-time low of 84.09. This was despite the dollar sales by the Reserve Bank of India. Subhana Sheikh of NDTV Profit has more details on what happened.
Yes, so the Indian rupee has hit an all-time low of 84.09 and was also ended at 83.98 against the dollar. It breached the psychological crucial mark of 84 against the dollar. Now, this was despite, this was despite the dollar sales by the Reserve Bank of India, and it's also because foreign banks were persistently buying, the Indian rupee because of outflows in the domestic equities. Now, the outflows from domestic equities were due to the risk of sentiment that was, taking place among the traders due to rising tensions in West Asia. Now, the head of UN peacemaking informed the Security Council that the safety and security of peacemakers in Lebanon is growingly at risk. Now, this was followed by Israeli forces were actually firing, on United Nations interim force in Lebanon. Now, also the strength in the US dollar also weighed on the Indian currency. The data had recently showed that US CPI actually rose to 0.2% in September against expectations of 0.1% rise. So that is what, these are the reasons as to why the rupee has hit an all-time low today.
All right, Subhana, thank you very much for those details. Well, Adani Enterprises Limited share sale worth $500 million to institutional investors garnered over 4 times demand from marquee investors, including GQG Partners. And Anushi joins in with more details of what happened with the QIP.
Adani Enterprises 4,200 crore QIP has now received about 4 times the subscription, and we're seeing some interesting names coming as marquee investors. Key participants include GQG Partners as per the sources. Even other key participants, if we are looking at Quant Mutual Fund, SBI Life Insurance, SBI General Insurance, Vito Capital Mutual Fund and more are involved in this QIP that we are looking at. Now, just on the QIP details, just to reiterate some of these facts that were known earlier, the company launched a 4,200 crore QIP at the floor price of rupees 3,170.47 per share, and the company seeks to raise about 4,200 crore as spoken earlier. The floor price, if we are seeing at, is at a discount of 6.08% from the share's closing price on the launch day, and may not offer discount of more than 5% on the floor price. If you look at the book running lead managers, SBI Capital Markets, Jefferies India's and ICICI Securities Limited were the book running lead managers of this issue. So that is why we are seeing Adani Enterprises in focus today.
Right, Anushi, thank you for that. Now, as the festive season kicked off, Flipkart and Amazon were the first ones to launch their sales. But how did that fare? Is e-commerce poised to see great sales numbers this festive season? Rishabh brings in details.
We have some data trickling in from a body called Datum Intelligence. They have released data for the first week of this festive period. And what we're seeing is that the projected sales for this entire month or so, which is supposed to be at around 1 lakh crore rupees, 55% of that has already been fulfilled in this first week. And that is about 54,500 crore worth of products have been sold on e-commerce platforms such as Amazon and Flipkart, followed by quick commerce platforms like Blinkit and Zepto. What we're seeing is that this is a growth of about 26% as compared to the first week of last year. And what we're seeing is that mobiles, electronics, home and general merchandise is what is making up 75% of these sales. So clearly the first week being very, very important, as a lot of households sort of postpone their decisions to buy. And then as soon as these discounts and offers hit by these e-commerce platforms, we see a lot of this pent-up demand getting realized. So what we're seeing is that a lot of the smartphone demand is coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities, almost 70% of all smartphone orders coming from those areas. We're also seeing that smart television, air fryers, luggage, ACs, water heaters are the top selling items apart from ghee and dry fruits, given the festivities around this period for the Hindu calendar as well. We're seeing that toys, books, as well as kitchen essentials are also seeing a about 2 to 5x jump. And apart from that, fashion, grocery, and beauty and personal care merchandise is also seeing a 2 to 4x jump. What is now in focus is quick commerce. We will see grocery pick up further as we move towards Diwali. We'll see a lot of parties coming in by a lot of people, a lot of get-togethers coming in. So quick commerce will be the next leg of growth. It is expected to contribute about 8% to this entire pie of e-commerce sales, about $1 billion worth products being expected to sold in the festive period. So stay tuned for that.
All right, Rishabh, thank you very much for that. Now, a few days ago, NDTV Profit had reported from Haridwar, where the CDS CEO had conducted checks on pharma companies that were manufacturing substandard drugs. NDTV's Rahul Kumar gets us the details of an NDTV impact that we're now seeing.
1 अक्टूबर को दिखाई गई एनडीटीवी की खबर का व्यापक असर हुआ है। हरिद्वार प्रशासन सजग हो गया है, दवा निर्माता कंपनियों की पर लगातार कार्रवाई कर रहा है और जहां-जहां गुणवत्ता के मानकों को पूरा नहीं किया जा रहा है वहां पर उनको बड़ी चेतावनी दी जा रही है। यहां तक कहा जा रहा है कि गुणवत्ता मानकों में कमी पाई गई तो उनके लाइसेंस को निरस्त कर दिया जाएगा।
Well, in fact, we are now getting the first comment from Noel Tata, who has been appointed as the chairperson of the Tata Trusts. He says, and I quote, "I'm deeply honoured and humbled by the responsibility that has been cast on me by my fellow trustees. I look forward to carrying on the legacy of Mr. Ratan Tata and the founders of the Tata Group. Founded more than a century ago, the Tata Trusts are a huge vehicle for undertaking social good. On this solemn occasion, we rededicate ourselves to carrying on our developmental and philanthropic initiatives and continuing to play our part in nation building," unquote. This is the first reaction that we are now getting from Noel Tata, the chairman of Tata Trusts. A short while ago, he was unanimously appointed to head the Tata Trusts, which together control about 65.3% of the Tata Group. Well, the Navi Mumbai airport witnessed a historic moment as it celebrated its first landing on the new airport with the Indian Air Force's C-295. Minutes later, a Sukhoi Su-30 performed a low fly past, prompting a round of applause from the gathering crowd. The Navi Mumbai airport will serve as the second airport to the MMR region and is expected to kick off domestic operations by March 2025. Vikas from NDTV Profit has this report.
The Navi Mumbai International Airport, which is coming up in Panvel region of Mumbai, has seen a successful testing of its first runway with the landing of a transport aircraft today. The airport is expected to come up or start its operations from March 2025, and in the beginning, which is considered to be the first and second phase, it will have a passenger capacity of 20 million. This will increase to 90 million by 2032. In the third, fourth and fifth phase, the airport is expected to add 30 million in the third phase, and fourth and fifth phase will see addition of 20 million passengers each. This airport will be connected through multimodal transport system, which will include metro, ferry services, rail and road. This will also be connected to the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus Airport, International Airport in Mumbai region as well. The airport, the Chief Minister today said, they are planning to start the airport even before 2025 March. So let's wait and watch till then, and we are expecting that the airport will see its commissioning much before March 2025.
Well, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a two-day official visit to Laos. He is attending the annual ASEAN-India Summit as well as the East Asia Summit. Now, the Prime Minister is expected to hold several bilateral meetings with heads of state from ASEAN member countries. This visit is a key moment for India as it will further strengthen India's cooperation with allies. The Prime Minister has prioritized East and Southeast Asia. Well, the conflict in West Asia is escalating as Israeli airstrikes hit a densely populated area in Beirut. According to Lebanese authorities, the strike resulted in the death of 22 civilians and injured dozens. Meanwhile, in Gaza, a strike killed at least 28 people at a school. In fact, NDTV's Ghazali has sent us this report from Beirut.
See, we are right now here in the Freedom Square. On my right, My camera person will show you is the famous Rafiq Hariri Mosque. It's an iconic mosque. And on my left is the Freedom Square, Martyrs Square. But if you see in the frame, you can see all these refugees who have come from different parts of Lebanon, who have been displaced due to this conflict. And this entire square here, a very iconic location. Behind me is the Mediterranean. You can't see it from here. But this entire area has now turned into a makeshift refugee camp. And why this is happening? Because Israel continues with its aerial strike, not only in southern suburbs or the southern Lebanon area, but aerial strikes happened very close to this particular city center area last night, killing more than 20 people and injuring hundreds of them.
Well, that's all we have time for right now on Profit 360. But before we go, we'd like to wish all our viewers a happy Dussehra from everybody here at NDTV Profit and the Profit 360 team.
The moment I saw it, I thought I will have to come here.
I'm loving it. An experience to remember for a lifetime.
मुझको कैसे है पा लिया इस शहर ने लापता था मैं पहले अपना लिया इस शहर ने शोर भी लगे एक दिन की तरह
NDTV World Summit 2024 October 21st and 22nd only on NDTV Network.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Listen to the voices of reason as they talk about corporate health and investing principles with me, Neeraj Shah, on my show, Talking Point.
Let's be real, guys. There are many financial experts.
If you'd had a conversation at the start of the year with someone about gold, chances are that you'd have been told that buying it is a bad idea. Somehow, that's a narrative that's gotten quite popular. I've heard people call it a dead asset. And those same people usually say, just invest in the Nifty 50. Equity is the way to go. But look at the year so far, and while the Nifty 50 is up by about 15%, gold has gained twice that amount. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you should sell your equity and buy gold. And I'm not asking you to make an investment decision based on what's happened so far this year. What I want to do is to talk to you about the advantages of holding gold. This Dussehra, on the first episode of MoneyWise, that's what I would like to talk to you about. Joining me today is Harshvardhan Rungta, co-founder, Rungta Securities, and Rajiv Popley, the managing director of the Popley Group. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. And happy Dussehra to you.
Happy Dussehra to you too as well.
Okay, so let me start with a conversation about this narrative that has gotten created. And Rajiv, I want to start with Harsh on this because he's been advising people about this for so long. Harsh, we've had conversations over the years where we've spoken about the other end of the spectrum, where we're saying, hold on, don't buy so much gold, maybe buy a little bit of equity. Because of this financialization that has taken place, do you think in certain cases it's gone too far onto the other side?
So, well, Alex, I mean, it's apparent that investors, the retail investor or layman investor, would essentially chase returns. So, any and whichever place possibly gives them higher returns, I mean, you'll see the flow of money going into that direction. As an asset allocation plan, we've been always talking about having an exposure to gold to the extent of 10 to 15%. and that is excluding jewelry. So we're talking about pure investment. I mean, you have it in the form of a product, which could be a coin or a bar or ETFs or fund or in a gold fund or sovereign gold bonds, basically which you would not hesitate to liquidate. So that allocation would be 10 to 15%. But as I said, investors being investors, I mean, we are going to be chasing returns in any product. So if equity markets do well, we will see money flowing into equity markets. If you see that gold will start doing well and equity markets gets volatile, you'll find investors again chasing gold for that matter. However, as I said, I mean, it's prudent to have a good allocation to your portfolio. I mean, because we don't know which asset is going to perform how going further. So if equity, for that instance, has given about 15%, I'm talking about Nifty, has given 15% return, gold has given 30, you don't know what it's going to be like in the next coming year, right?
Yeah.
So allocation to the right asset class based on your goals, time horizon, risk profile is very important. Invariably, gold as a commodity can be in your portfolio at all times to the extent of 10 to 15% for sure.
Okay, fair point. And Harsh has made the point very specifically that this does not include jewelry.
Exactly.
For years we've been talking about this, Rajiv, it hasn't changed. Because ultimately, let's face it, people don't go and sell their jewelry unless they're going to buy more. So it's not necessarily an investment. But I want to get something out of the way. A lot of people think about gold prices in India as determined based on demand and supply here. Is that true, or are we complete price takers when it comes to the gold that is sold in the global market?
Yes, Alex. In fact, now past with the open markets and the transparent pricing that works on in the entire industry, we are rupee to rupee with the international market.
Okay.
There's no Indian dominance of price. There's no local market monopolizing of the gold price at all. We are in fact even closer to that with the reduced customs duty.
Which happened, and that's when you saw a
phenomena.
Yeah.
So we could realize that there's no change, in fact, with the international pricing. There's no premiums that we talk about. We were in the days earlier in late 90s and 2000s where there was a very serious premium on the international gold price, apart from the customs duty we're talking about. Today, we change, in fact, at our stores, we are pegged to the international pricing totally. So we have our own platforms where we disclose the gold prices on a day-to-day basis to the Indian consumers, and they can always recheck it with the international prices and, in fact, with the other jewelry retailers, which is very fair as a offering. The important part is what Harsh was talking about was probably 10 to 15% of the entire industry retail business, which is the investment part of coins, bars, so on to say. The rest is jewelry.
Yeah.
India lives on jewelry, the craftsmanship, the handcraft, laboring that India is proud of in the international market is jewelry.
I love that we're going to have an interesting conversation here. There is going to be proper arguments from both sides. And gentlemen, please don't hesitate to interrupt the other person. It'll be a more engaging conversation. But I take that point. Harsh, you want to come in on this? Because ultimately, while we're speaking to a large group of individuals that will buy into the philosophy that it's not necessarily an investment, let's face it, I'm talking about somebody who helps me cook or who helps cook food for me. I know for a fact that she's had financial trouble over the last couple of years, and what has helped her out ultimately is the gold that she had. Girvi rakke, she has borrowed money, she has pawned her jewelry and she's bought or she's got money. She's paid for her daughter's wedding. She's paid for certain other medical emergencies. That is a reality.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you look down, go back in history, I mean, gold or jewelry for that matter has been the ownership, the asset of a woman, right? I mean, Stridhan is still considered to be untouchable by the government as well, right? So there is some sense of ownership and emotional connect with the jewelry. Then you have this kind of ancestral jewelry being passed down from one generation to the other. So these are not, just simply commodities or products. There are a lot of emotions that go down from one generation to the other, right? And in bad times, I mean, of course, these can be, put as security and you can raise money. Now look at this segment that you spoke about. There is one segment of, or larger, rather a bigger segment in India, which is not so, up to date, or rather probably so comfortable with equity markets.
Yeah.
Right. For them, gold and all that becomes that source of investment plus the sense of ownership.
Where financialization hasn't caught up yet.
Absolutely. So the larger portion of the Indian population is in that segment.
Yes.
Right. So of course, gold will be one, very precious commodity in their portfolio. And, that is kept for their daughter's wedding, that is kept as the financial security of the women, that is kept as many other things. So let's not take that away. I mean, unfortunately, it's done well for those people who are holding it.
Yes.
Now, I'm not talking about jewelry again, because jewelry resale value may not be as good as it may be if you're holding in the form of coins and bars.
Yeah.
So you need to distinguish between the two, that jewelry is essentially self-consumption.
Yes.
And investment, when you talk about, then the rate, that the percentage growth that we're talking about, 30%, that's essentially pure gold in the form of coins or bars, for that matter.
Yeah.
Jewelry, you may not get that much of appreciation as much as you may have seen otherwise.
And that is a fair point, Rajiv. Come in on this, because ultimately, look, you're in the business of making jewelry. You have to make some money doing it.
Sure.
It is a business.
Sure.
And so therefore, there is a making charge associated with jewelry.
Yes, of course.
Because it's beautiful products that you create.
So the flaunt basically is on the craftsmanship.
Sure.
And that's what you're paying as a premium, which is probably a percentage of the core product value.
How much can it go up to?
So it can range from anywhere from 4 to 5% upwards and go up to even 25 to 30%, depending on the consumption of labor and design element which is incurred and invested into that product category. India primarily is looked up more as bespoke jewelry, each piece being unique, no multiples and no mass manufacturing. That's the Indian USP per se. So there is where the labor incurring is more, because we don't believe in mass produced pieces. So imagine if your wife would go to a wedding and she would see the lady wearing the same necklace on the other side. It'd be pretty embarrassing. So the whole idea is she flaunts her piece of jewelry because she feels that's unique. But that's typically how it happens, you know. It's like for the men, if I wear the same Louis Vuitton tie and I see you wearing the same one identical, it's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, you won't do the Spider-Man thing. That only happens in the cartoons.
But in jewelry, it's a very conscious decision that I need something unique for myself, and that's where India prides itself in creating each piece as a unique collection. So when we look at our jewelry stores and our design team, we work on mechanics where we can produce more innovative pieces every time. On my floor, there are rarely any pieces which will be in multiples.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's a demand. Then if we have to put across, I want the same piece repeated again, then it's a situation for my designers to go back and design the same piece again. It's like asking an artist, can you paint it again for me?
Yeah.
Which
and it won't turn out the same.
No, it's not possible because it's hand done. The whole idea is that we incur a lot of attention, design, meticulous workmanship on creating a unique piece.
So, okay, we will circle back to the investment bit, but I'm very curious about this because he's spoken about handcrafted jewelry. Yeah. And incidentally, we were speaking just before the show, Harsh, and he was talking about how different styles in India actually sought after around the globe.
Yes.
I'm curious about, and let's not spend too much time on this, but what are the prominent styles and what is the most expensive style in India?
So it won't be region-based, but of course the workmanship which is required and the fusion which is done is where the part of investment increases. So we've got things from the Far East, which is Kolkata region, the West Bengal region, where we've got typical generations of karigars who've been worked on, and that's the filigree work which comes out from them. There's something which is there in the West, which is the Gujarat segment, which is Rajkot, Ahmedabad segment, which creates certain unique pieces, again, typical to that region and the culture that come from. Of course, there's South, which is born with temples and the whole idea of temple jewelry. And then there's North, which is with the Polki and the Kundan jewelry. So these are segments which are coming out of the religion, the community, the cult, and the entire history which is there. And India is proud of it, end of the day. All this is demanded internationally. When I have my stores in Dubai and other places, these are things which are demanded by a region, in fact.
Interesting. Okay, so that's fascinating. I have a follow-up.
Yeah.
You obviously work with a lot of these karigars, and like Harsh pointed out, this is passed on generation to generation. Is it tougher to find them nowadays?
Yes, of course. See, Pople has been is a nearly 100-year-old company. I myself am third generation. So are many of my karigars. The same way. So there have been karigars who worked with my grandfather, my father, and now they're with me. And the generations have passed on. It's getting tougher by obvious reasons that the entire industry per se earns for these karigars, because you know there's always going to be a scarcity of these karigars. The next generation may not be as comfortable in doing the same karigari work on the thing, and probably they've chosen some other field, or probably the education has taken them elsewhere. You know, this is very natural. It happens in every